How's it going? Astral was bugging me to start one up, so I was like, "Fuck it, I want to start one up anyway." Here they come.
Yo.
Both want to help me host Red Panda and Astral?
Yeah, I'm chilling, dude.
Right on. There you go. I just want to do this one actually, so it's kind of we can talk about anything. I want to try to encourage people to post in this thread just different things about the phenomenon or what they think the phenomenon is, and uh, all these. I had someone ask me today, "Oh, you don't want to co-host? That's all right, Red Panda. Too busy. Is your mic work? Can anyone hear me?"
I can hear you. Did the Arrow report drop, or is it not dropping today?
I didn't. One, we have Jump Room might come up here and tell us because I actually didn't get a chance to listen. I just saw the disappointment from people. I don't know what they expected. Like I said, I think I got some tweets. Doesn't mean, well, yeah, it does. This rotating door that's going on in government, the whole point of the shit. I just read that too. So check this out. It's funny. When I talked to my legacy source, he says so much. It was 3.5 hours. I was, and he was just going and going and going, right? So I didn't remember. So I went back today, started looking at it, and he was kind of talking about these generals, these colonels that have the secrets and the clearances. They get the jobs with these companies for a reason. He started naming some of the companies, all that kind of stuff, right? So, like I had posted, Sean is actually connected to frickin' not the lead singer, by the way. Scott, he's connected to Scott Stapp over at Northrop, and his sole purpose of his job is that some of that future tech shit. Like, you see what I'm saying here? It's hard for me to think that he's going to do anything. I from the get go, I've known if you're connected with a guy at Northrop whose very job is that. So I didn't think he's going to do it at all. Actually, plus you gotta realize, look what happened to Lou. Nobody wants to bring shit forward because it's almost like it doesn't matter what people say, or they need to be abducted before they're going to believe it. You know what I mean?
Did you hear what the guy Lakatsky? Have you seen that with weaponized
Yeah,
all
I
the shit
did.
that he was talking about? Yeah. Did you see where they were like, "Well, would you even go to Congress?" And he was like, "No." He's like, he's like, I talk too much. He's like, I would probably in the moment. I feel like in the moment he'd probably say something. He was like, there's a line that you can cross, but and then they're like, "What if you were subpoenaed?" And he's like, "Well, if we get to there." And then he also said that Arrow had reached out to them, which was interesting too. But it's like maybe people they have a line that they can't cross, and they fear that if they start coming out public, that like they'll cross that line.
You know what? No. What do you guys think about when he said that about the fake documents?
I think he was kind of hinting at ATIP and maybe like I don't
I
know,
just
just
hit me right now.
like
This is a minor tingle, but actually talking about it, I'm sitting there thinking, was maybe he was talking about the Italy documents?
what's the Italy
So
documents?
one of the things David talks about was the crash in Italy, and there are some documents that later came forward from a guy who says they're authentic. I think they were wires, telegrams. Everyone's thinking,
Are you talking about like the very
yes,
first crash
yeah.
or
Well,
whatever? Like
those
okay.
documents, maybe that's it. Because what I picked up was he was hinting at that's there's fake ones that he was told, and the person who told him that doesn't even know that that was fake. It was a way to, I guess, suss out some shit. I don't know. But my point being, for a minute, I was thinking it was the MJ12, but everybody kind of knows that's kind of what it is, right? But then again, it could be the MJ12 documents. And the reason I say that is this. I think those documents, while being fake, are the same thing as Tom DeLonge's books. I think they were released in a way to get out information. Because under Reagan, what is it? The IP. Oh, I'm going to say the band name, right? There was a variation. Shit. Look in the stuff we talk about within DOE and shit. So,
Well, dude, wouldn't it be funny if like there was a fake document and then like all the people who saw it and have come out have been the ones that like failed the test, and these have been all the people who now are going off of this fake document but they don't know it's fake. So it's like it's like a fucking slippery slope that you can get into of like, okay, maybe people know that it was a fake document that they've been going off of the information. Because then remember he said like people don't know that they're like lying or like they don't know the truth. They believe what they believe, but they're totally wrong. So they could have read this fake document and been like, "Oh shit, I know what's going on," and then come out as a whistleblower, and they're like totally saying wrong shit now. And that was the test.
No,
Like
that's
that was
actually, I
like,
think
okay, that
that's
you
what
failed.
I thought he was implying that too. No, that's what I thought he was implying. So David, okay, so what I picked up was the same thing you just said. Let me see if this is it. Basically, someone received information and gave it to David, and they're still thinking it's real. They gave it to David, so David has no way to know it's not because the person who gave it to him even thought it was, right? That's what I thought he was implying. That as a way to kind of, well, you can see where leaks are going. You give certain people bad information, only one, right? Because you got to be able to be tell where that information came from, and if that information goes anywhere, you know exactly where it came from. That happens as well. So I thought it was documents he was kind of implying to. There's something out there that's for some reason in my head I kept thinking it was documents. Now I'm thinking maybe it was because again those documents came forward way later. Doesn't mean the crash and shit wasn't real. But those documents came about way later from a guy, and I remember, I think it even was sus at the time. But then, hell, I don't know. So, hey guys, do me a favor, retweet the space. We'll talk about anything in here. We're gonna roll at least until Fringe's space, and then we'll pop over to that one. So, I didn't realize it was so late. I switched time zones. Oh, check this out. You know what I saw today? So, someone linked me a book, and in the book, there's an excerpt. It talks about indigo children. And it has like 17 of the signs, right? And I know I posted a thread about those. And I'm watching, looking at this list, and I'm like, it's a checklist, all 17, just all 17. And I'm like, what the shit is that, man? So I'm working on my soup.
Like what? Give us
All
some
right, let me go find
examples.
it. I'm gonna try to post that shit, man. Give me a second. So dance form real quick while I get it.
I'll post because I'll look for a document too that um it was by Joe McMoneagle when he talked about in his book about what the government looked for, or like what the remote viewing program looked for in remote viewers, and it wasn't anything like special. I think you would look at this list and you probably couldn't distinguish it from somebody who would say do this to be successful or to be like a creative person. And so it was just kind of like somebody who is kind of odd but still friendly and sociable, someone who's creative, a leader, someone who's skeptical but also like open-minded but also skeptical. So it's just like traits that I think one having a couple, but when you put like together the whole thing, that's like what people are looking for. And I remember, dude, like it was a space about a year ago where Chris Sharp jumped into space, and he was just talking about a like experiencer list, and he's like was pretty certain that he's like the government has a like super experiencer list of like 200 people that they basically monitor, or
Yeah, that's
you
the
know
cohort. For a
yeah,
fact. As a matter of fact, some of those have dead. Yeah, listen to my some of those have dead. Some of those have even committed suicide. Some just passed away. Jim Van mentions them. Matter of fact, uh, Jim Segola he actually made a device for some of these individuals who were having these intense experiences, man. And yeah, the cohort, bro. I also think those are part of the. And I just posted a list in the nest, by the way. Indigo, the I guess what you would say targeted individuals. Maybe targeted individuals are targeted by both, and that's the point. But what you were talking about, man, refresh me what you just said. I actually had a point to piggyback on.
I was talking first about like the remote viewing program and some of the qualifications and characteristics that they were looking for, and then um with the super experiencers that Christopher Sharp talked about like a year ago in space is like basically a list. Like Chris Bledsoe, you would figure is on it, and other people. But I wonder, like, how, I guess they would probably either be notified about this person through news or like just word of mouth,
Well,
or like you
here's
could
what I
say
was
they
going
would
to
have
say.
like that list of psychic characteristics or traits that they would sort of look to identify in people.
I was going to mention, yeah, that's what I was going to piggyback off on. So I don't think the government would tell anybody that they already kind of know who's, because like I said, actually, I don't know if I've got to talk about it yet. So I posted, all that Dan Sherman stuff, Project Preserve Destiny. I'm telling you, the more I dig, the it's legit. He hasn't lied about anything. The problem is getting that hard information, right? Like using his PCS orders that he has in his book, you can actually take and imply some things. He was at Aviano Air Base in Italy, but that's not the thing that just blows my mind. His PCS orders and his storage is paid for not by the Air Force, not by a command, GSA. They're responsible for the real estate, buying the stuff you need when you deploy. That's a way to funnel money to a black program, is what it is. And then if you take it a little step further, that fun site code that I tore down, it actually has part of it, and it has usually the initials for an operation. So I start digging and digging, and one of the operation is Operation Nectar. And what that is basically it's a command post where you're there in a spot and SIG intel for allies, and it's retired, right? So it's exactly what that would be. So what's up, Tom?
Hey man, no, I kind of have like a different subject to broach, so we'll cover
Hey,
it
brother,
when
thank you for
you know.
saving me because I completely forgot what I was even talking about by the time I got to the end.
Oh well, so you want me to go into this?
Go ahead, brother.
All
You're good.
right,
I don't even, I'm
okay,
dead serious. I can't remember how I got to that, but that's usually how I work.
it's all good. So, all right, I've become a lot more interested in like the last month into remote viewing, and I've been reading some books and really trying to like learn how to do it myself, get better at it, and like really take it seriously and approach it from a very scientific perspective. Like I'm already sold on it. I've seen the data. I'm convinced already. So, but I'm approaching it as like a skill, right? It's like if I were learning a new language,
Which
that type
data
of thing.
convinced you? Because I'm not convinced.
Uh,
I don't think the
just
intelligence.
a lot of the things that I've read, plus the fact that I had someone remote view my living space in real time, which a lot of people, there may even be a lot of people here who witnessed that, which was really wild. But this isn't about my abilities per se, like or like how good I've gotten at it. This has nothing to do with that. It's something that I've come across. So obviously,
You
like there's
know
a
who
lot.
wrote that? Because there's like a study I see thrown around a lot. Like, oh, the CIA put a big study into this, and then it
Yeah,
was run by the Stanford Institute, the Stanford Research Institute, with Hal Puthoff and those guys.
right.
And then in 1996, it was actually taken over by a company called SAIC. You ever heard
Uh-huh.
of them before?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Yeah, so that's like a whole key connection and rabbit hole there because SAIC, of course, started making the airport scanners,
Right.
and so
That's a good point.
they were doing people scanning technology, and they made billions after 9/11. All the air if you go to any airport now, all the airport scanners are
Every
made by
airport.
Leidos, and
Yep,
that's SAIC.
that is true. Yep, absolutely.
So that they must have foreseen the future, and
Hey, do
X-Files
me a
script
solid, Jeremy.
writers may have
Jeremy,
foreseen
do
the
me a
future
solid.
of
Post some of the
9/11
links for
too.
that shit in here. Do me a
Yeah.
solid. Get in the thread. Post some of the links for
So
that shit. If that's information people can find, and get to,
Yeah, people can
this
look
legit.
that up.
Otherwise, it's
there
just us talking
is
about it.
this is so let's I'm gonna
That's
focus back in
absolutely
on
factual contractor data. I mean, these
yeah,
guys
yeah, yeah,
did
yeah.
the report on remote viewing. They invested and they made a ton off this. They're now Leidos Corporation. You want to know what's even crazier, right? Look up the vice president of Leidos Corporation, a guy named Barry W. McDaniel. And what he was doing on 9/11 is he was working for a company called Securicom Stratesec, which ran security at the World Trade Centers. And their contract expired on September 11th, 2001. And now he's the vice president of that company that made billions selling the airport scanners after 9/11. And
Hey,
So
that's
we
all the
we
hold
same
can
up, hold
remote
up,
viewing
everybody.
company.
Hold up. We're gonna do a reset. This is a UAP room. Unless you can do something like one time I heard a source tell me that one of the reasons they didn't find the aircraft was because they were trying to take him down with one of our weapons, new that they use on, and it, yeah, bro, no shit.
I think this relates
So that
to
relates,
9/11 is
but
definitely related to UAP, right? Because after 9/11, the Carlyle Group bought out EG&G, which is the main contractor at Area 51.
Jeremy,
So they,
bro, you're smart as fuck. You gotta slow down for some of us. Even
yeah.
you're
Well,
just you're,
let me make my
We're
point,
I
and then
jumping
like you,
around
Jeremy.
though.
we can
You wait.
because
You want
this
to? Let's. I want to talk about the remote viewing question you asked because you said you haven't been convinced about the data. I just
There
posted
we
up
go. Go
top
back to that.
what I think is the most convincing piece of data and research, which is Jessica Utz, who was the former president of the Statistical Association of America. So she was the
yeah.
president of somebody who analyzed statistics. She looked at a meta-analysis of all the remote viewing projects that were printed in scientifically recognized journals. And she said that psychic functioning is real in terms of ESP. If you look at telepathy, the studies that have looked at telepathy, clairvoyance, and precognition.
Yeah,
So feel
yeah.
free to take a look at the data. It's there. There's also another great resource by
we could
Dean
yeah, and
Radin.
we can
So
debate
there was
that.
another study that was done
Yo,
after that.
can I make my point? I'm
Go
really
ahead, Tom.
like
Yeah,
we
Jeremy.
can
Let's raise our hand. Let's try not
like
to
you
interrupt.
did kind of just like
Sorry, you keep going. I'm gonna look this up. Let me turn my
yeah, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just this kind of concerns me honestly, and I need to like get it off my chest actually, because normally this type of thing doesn't. But I was a little flummoxed by it, honestly. And I know a lot of you here are very familiar with remote viewing, especially Astral and old vet, like, you know, especially, you know, the people that we all hang out with on Thursdays, right? Like being tomorrow during the RV spaces. So obviously you guys are aware of what's happening in the Middle East. So I decided to try to read the room. And I went and started looking at posts through different remote viewing YouTube channels, sites, communities, over like the last couple of months. And I began to notice a pattern. And it seems like people were picking up on something, right? So what was happening was like they would be remote viewing a specific target. And the way it was described by one particular group is that something else kept butting in, like it was trying to grab their attention because and like the way I kind of interpret that is that like sometimes I guess when you're remote viewing there are events, maybe nexus points in time and space, whatever you'd like to call it, that have like a really strong ripple effect for some reason. Like 9/11 is a good example. So what's apparently happening now is that and like there's all these different remote viewing communities, organizations, even companies that are global. Like there are remote viewers in Turkey, there are remote viewers in Japan, United States, you name it. Like they're all over the place. And everyone is kind of they're like a little they're like freaking out a little bit because what's happening is that like everyone's kind of cross-referencing each other's data right now. And the consensus that people seem to be coming to at the moment. Again, I'm just telling you what I'm reading. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm even getting like a vibe. Like a lot of us, that a lot of people, at least that I've spoken to, are getting a vibe that something major. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, what it could be either. I am not sure. Something catalyzing, something really important is on the horizon. If it like I can just kind of feel it in my gut, and a lot of other people feel that way. One of the groups that I was looking at, the Future Forecast group, there's a guy named, I just want to make sure I get his name right. His name is Dick Algier. He's with futureforecastinggroup.com. Their data, in correlation with what happened in Israel, seemed to match up. Like they were, and like they weren't even remote viewing for that type of thing. It pulled them in. But they said they're describing this as something as being they called it a luminosity event or being luminous, meaning that it like when they're remote viewing, this thing is shining like a really bright light. Like even the description of the video, it says events coming over the horizon have their own luminosity. We are picking up big things ahead, and what they're not the only ones saying this. That's the point I'm getting at. Is that apparently the consensus is that two very large world-changing events are imminent. And I'm not trying to sound like Nostradamus. No, it's nothing like that. But I look at their data. I look at how accurate that they've been, and then I kind of pull my own scientific analyzation of consciousness into it. And I'm like, okay, I believe that consciousness is non-local, and I believe it exists outside of our 3D time space. We pick it up from outside of the quote unquote snow globe, and that information, because it's outside of our quote unquote dimension, it can see all. It can know all. It sees everything all at once, all the time. Because outside of that, there is no time and there is no space. So you would be able to pick any point. I mean, again, this is just my observation and my take on it. So this is how you would scientifically explain how a human being would be able to, say, predict the future, or pull information out of the ether about something that they had no business knowing about. Well, they weren't there physically, they didn't have any secondhand witnesses, etc. Like, they're able to like grab that data out of out of thin air almost. It's because consciousness, I think, is non-local, and a lot of groups are like really trying to get people's attention right now. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I've never seen this happen before, and it's a little frightening. And then I think about there's a clip. Leslie Keene was on Theories of Everything with Kurt Jamungal, and Digby, my podcasting partner, he alerted me to this, and we're going to be talking about it on the podcast this Sunday. Digby had to reschedule, and we're not able to do it today, so we're doing it on Sunday. But she said something that really grabbed my attention, right? So she went on his show, and think about who she is for a second, right? Like, she has credentials, whether you like the lady or not. Like, she's put her time in, and say what you want, your opinion of the New York Times, like, that's fine, but they're still considered prestigious in the grand scheme of things, right? Whether they're right or wrong. Like, this isn't just some, wannabe journalist in their basement saying this. This is someone that has credentials. That's why I think we should pay attention to it. And she said something that really startled me. And we've all heard about the 2027 bit. We've all been hearing about that. But she said that within the next few years, based on her sources, like, she's got people telling her this, that we may not have access to all of the things that we take for granted. She said, and I quote, and then someone else can speak, "I'm not hopeful for the future direction that we're moving in. I think things are going to be pretty difficult starting in a few years. And from what I've been told by sources, a lot of what we take for granted now in life."
You're all
say that
talking
again?
about a pole shift.
Okay, I'm getting to that. I don't think is going to be, we're not going to have it. A lot of things we have now that makes our lives as wonderful as they are. And I'm a little chilled that you make that point, because
Yeah, I have her sources, so I take that with a grain of salt. I'm just saying.
okay, well, that's fair. But one of the groups that I was looking at brought up the Earth's magnetic field. And that's when I was like, all right, I need to back up, because this is starting to get a little scary. Like, because this is not doom porn. I don't want any of this shit to happen. I want all of these people to be wrong. Like, I don't like this. Like, it actually made me nervous. Like, and rarely do I get that way. But when I saw so many different people from so many different sources saying something, and then the 2027 thing, I'm just like, okay, what the fuck is going on? Like, it bothered me a little bit. So I just wanted to like bring it up. And if anybody else
I'll
has
give
a
you more
take,
info on that too.
yeah,
So,
please.
it's pole shift. All right, end of the world
Right.
type event. Matter of fact, the civilizations, breakaway civilizations that are possibly here, and you can take, let's say, Thomas Bearden's paper, The One Human Problem, talks about the civilization prior, the
Mhm.
footprints found in Mexico, things like that. So
Fucking
pole
pre-Adamite.
shifts are probably a common thing, but one of the things that's really crazy and is going to go all Alex Jonesy right here is, so the pyramids in Alaska underground, these things are put on this planet for a reason. Consciousness, perhaps, but also to prevent a wobble in the planet, right? And somehow
Okay.
someone has messed with these things. And this will give me a good segue, because what if the people who messed with these things were private corporations?
Hmm.
Because think about this. I keep talking about it. And this is going to go into MH370 update, right? So again, Blackwater, BlackRock, it was all about the patents. Justin just posted a patch that's with the Delta 2 signal squadron. They're literally the ones who filmed it. Their whole point is quick reaction for anything UAP related. So that's who filmed it. And I posted that up there. So all of this, the remote viewing, the pole shift, all of these things are all completely intertwined. So again, what if let's say these pyramids are somehow something tied into consciousness, okay? And you have these private companies that mess with them. But that being said, I was also told that underground megaliths are everywhere, right? But sometimes, like the one that I posted, I think it's up in the nest, they have some unnatural power source. They don't know where it's coming from, and they know what it can do, but someone's messed with them, and perhaps that's what signifies this pole shift. And then there's another one that's just every X amount of years. I think we're 10 years overdue. That's why everybody's scared, because I think I posted on my Twitter, and I'll go find it. She's in here, I think.
We're
Met.
overdue for a lot.
Well, Met's in here, and she posted that shit, right? So I hope I pronounced your name right. But she posted it, and there's an extra little paper, and it talks about, like, 2012 was when it was supposed to have happened, because it gave the previous dates of the pole shift. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Dates are an iffy and hard thing, right? That's what I'm trying to say on that. So, but if we get everybody worked up about that, ain't nobody going to want no UAP shit. But I do want to mention one thing that I brought up earlier. It's not even worth just passing over. I literally said this, guys. So, someone I trust.
Prophecies unfold because that's what's
That's a
written
great
in their
point, too.
religion.
That is a really good point.
That's very true. So I take all that with a
Very
grain of
true.
salt. But the thing I did mention earlier, since he had brought up the 9/11, if we're going to talk about stuff in this room, I want it UAP related. I glossed over it, but I said it, so I might as well repeat it. And I'm going to stress the individual that said this has never lied to me. And matter of fact, told me don't mention this. People will think you're a nut because it's all conspiracy sounding. But I'm going to say it since I actually mentioned it and we brought it up as a relation. The only way we're talking about 9/11 is related. So part of the reason they couldn't find the one, I think, of the plane was our direct energy weapon that we use on UAPs was either being tested or used and missed, and that's why the towers pancaked like they did, or something along those lines. And I'd have to go back and look. So it's just the gist is that weapon. That weapon
Hey
was
guys, I gotta
involved.
get going, man.
How do you think we take down UAPs, brother? I can tell you how. Piezoelectric effect.
Yeah, they target like the electrical systems. It's called an electromagnetic pulse. They use an
they
EMP.
target this non-terrestrial vehicle with the electrical systems, right? No, it's a gravity drive, brother. So nothing's going to penetrate it unless you have something like the piezoelectric effect, a directed energy weapon. You can go look at my Twitter,
Direct
man.
energy,
I
they have
got
shielding,
1,000.
dude. You have to use an EMP.
No, man. You can go look at my Twitter, man. I got 1,000 papers, brother. I get that you don't understand. Don't interrupt me again, man. Is that alien scientist? So, my bad, guys. Literally, dude, we don't have a directed energy weapon, man. Are you kidding me, man? We're in the middle of this game. You can go look right now. There's probably about 500 people that have posts with papers talking about directed energy weapons. I actually just today went over that Legacy Source's 3-hour phone call. Specifically told me he was asked to design the energy weapon. It's a piezoelectric effect, the original one. And at the base in Arizona, they tested it on crashed UAPs to see whether it would work. He knew all about that shit. So don't argue with me again, bro. I get it. So what's up? That kind of pisses me off a little bit. We don't have directed energy weapon. He comes up here spitting 9/11 conspiracies and directed energy weapons a conspiracy. Go screen.
What up, though? Yeah, real quick, Israel, their anti-missile system, Iron Dome, they're actually putting these like lasers that are shooting down the rockets that, like, when they get overwhelmed, the ones that are like coming in between, they're like speeding up this new technology to implement it like now, so that, you know, and that uses a laser to fucking shoot down the rockets. That's fact, you know. But besides that, The pole shift seems to happen a lot. A lot of people get on that because we don't really quite know what happens when it does shift. But they've like who was it? Russia, I think. They drilled like this deep ass hole, and the rocks become magnetized to certain directions because of the pole shift. And so like everybody, you hear like this 12,500 or 2,400 year cycle or whatever. That these like pole shifts happen, but the last like real pole shift happened like 500,000 years ago per the crust. And so it's like we just don't really know what actually happens. Like we might not experience all the crazy stuff that they're saying is going to happen. So I just want people to stay open-minded to that type of stuff.
And real quick too, just I don't know if you could read, but here's just a real quick. All I had to do was type in directed energy weapon on Twitter. I mean, loads of papers by the government, by companies. Wow, what did you know? And that's the conspiracy. What's up, Christian?
Hey, I just wanted to second what Tom was talking about, Thomas, because it kind of freaked me out too, man. Like this whole remote viewers that were forecasting the future. First of all, it's not that I was a skeptic in remote viewing. I know it's true. The CIA obviously wouldn't waste 20 years, but these people and how accurate they were kind of freaked me out because they were very careful about what they were saying a month ago because they don't like selling fear porn. And they're like, listen, basically the next 9/11 is about to happen. They describe how they draw what happened was like crazy. They describe people being blocked, was the borders are closed and they can't get out. And now they're saying that there's two things, two big events coming. I don't think it's a pole shift. I think it's something to do with World War III or something
Maybe
along
it's a
those
nuclear
lines.
bomb and bullshit.
Dude,
I thought maybe disclosure would be part of it, potentially, like in a more positive aspect, I guess, because they're not saying if it's positive or negative. They're just saying that it's essentially giving off a big signal. It's grabbing their attention. So like they're not necessarily saying it's negative, but now some groups are. But then some groups are keeping it more ambiguous, and they keep some of the more frightening data, I guess, close to their chest. But it could be disclosure. Like it could be, right? And that's my hope, at least. I don't want a damn pole shift. I got to go to work.
What? Yeah, works the
I'm
last thing I
trying to be
worry
light about
man.
it, but God, that shit's scary, man.
Yo,
Like
I know who
it
knows.
is.
No, let me tell you this.
Fucking Bigelow knows.
Hey, check this
I
out.
wouldn't be
You think the pole
surprised.
shift's scary? So just when they
Yeah.
start talking about that shit, right? I only got really two fears. Balloons, don't ask about that. I don't know why balloons, I do. But the other thing being going to the coast where the Cascadia subduction zone is. I don't know why. I'm telling you, I don't like going over there for a tsunami. I have nightmares. Like literally think about that shit. I don't know why. Just
Oh,
an
dude.
obsession, right? So then I moved to
Tsunamis
Whidbey
freak me out.
Island and I had to put that shit down. And then I start hearing sources and people start talking about this pole shift and research what a pole shift would entail. And I'm on, goddamn, if you look at where Whidbey is, you don't just get the tsunami, it's funneled. So you get 4 times the tsunami. And I'm like, oh, this kind of blows. But no, we don't got to worry, man. I don't think, look, I live every day like I'm dying tomorrow. So I ain't worried about that shit, man. Because if you don't, you probably are going to be missing out. I used to do that shit. I'm not going to do that anymore. But hey, let me do this real quick. Everybody retweet the space. One thing that I would like to do tonight, you see the name of the space, the others, a UFO compendium. I want to take that a little bit seriously. Anything you think is relevant to the others, whatever you think those are, story, anything like that, put that in this thread. The reason being more and more people are coming on board. And I, like a lot of people in this room, I think the reason for the secret isn't because they have tech. I think it's because of the wild craziness that the government not only knows about, actually is involved in. I mean, when you're talking, I'm a UFO reporter, a phenomenon reporter, anomalist, right? But at some point, when the real gets to a point that I'm not going to not talk about it, but people start saying, oh, that's a conspiracy. I can promise you, I've been saying for 6 months, tip of the iceberg, and it's all been coming true. It's getting crazier and crazier. The information, shit, I don't want to talk about MH370, but I'm going to say that kind of stuff there is what we can expect. The things that we've always been taught are probably a conspiracy. There's probably a reason for that shit. So just retweet the space. I'm going to try my best to post some more info and stuff like that in there. I do a lot of that, and I enjoy researching. So give all the hosts, co-hosts a follow as well. And go ahead, Screen.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like especially if you study history, like the world goes through cycles, and most likely everybody's just sensing like we just came into the age of Aquarius pretty much. So people are probably just sensing the zodiac change or the astrological cycle changing. And they're named the way they are for reasons, right? Aquarius basically means like enlightenment. And here everybody is getting into all this old ancient knowledge, kind of resurfacing and stuff, coming full circle. So it's probably just more of that stuff. Because I've always had dreams of like like where I live at, but it's flooded, or fighting battles on the beach, or there's like two moons in the sky. All kind of like dimensionality, world-ending stuff. And it's I think it's just the subconscious. Astral had a post about consciousness earlier, and I think that's at the heart of all this, and we just need to look into it more.
Dude, I think consciousness is the key. And Tom hit the nail on the head. Non-local duality, we're all different expressions of the same thing, which would also play into what Thomas Bearden's paper talks about, right? The one human problem. And that basically discusses, you can only get so far. So, what do they call it? The Fermi, not the Fermi, is it the Fermi paradox? No, the filter, the great filter. Okay. Let's say that's what we're talking about here. And I just lost myself. So somebody pick me up. Fucking ADHD.
I was reading this. Well, I just started reading it. It's one of the many books that I have, obviously, on this topic. And we made a really interesting comment about what the others are, right? And I hadn't heard it really described in these terms. Like maybe I've thought of it this way, but it was kind of interesting to hear it spoken. They said that they're not extraterrestrials, and they're not demons, and they're not angels. They're something in between. Now, I don't know. That just got my wheels turning, and I thought that was like a really interesting quote.
Well, that's good. Thank you for actually bringing up where I was at. So, I think I posted on my Twitter, and I'll go repost it up in here where I talked about, I think, a source. I want to quote him properly. So, actually, somebody take over, and I want to go grab that real quick because he's kind of talking about for why they need craft. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Okay.
I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So they need matter, physical object, thing, AI biologics and the small grays, us to be here, right? Let's say to get here. And perhaps the craft is what's projecting them, 3D printer type style, things like that. But they don't really have a form. And that makes sense. And I'm just bear with me. The reason I say that, I've heard that from a source, and I'll post that. But I've also, if you go look at the Cosgrove experiments, Cosgrove mirror experiments, they talk about when they're doing the experiments, they see the Sumerian symbols, which there's, a little key there. And then the faceless whites, just energy looking beings. And that's a common thing. So perhaps everything we see is just how they get here. And if you take it a step further, the control system that Keel talks about, I wish Garrett was still in here, man. I had a question for him too. But Keel talks about, Valet talks about, and that control system, UFO Joe actually posted today, talks about, so wait, there's real Bigfoot, there's like the fake Bigfoot, which is them. And then there's our men in black, and there's their men in black. They mimic. So mimicry, right? A control system and giving us things that we need to see to put us in places that we need to be. So that's some wild shit right there. And if it is an energy beam, and they are doing this, and then it's wild that holy shit, I've actually heard that from two sources now. Some form of jumping around type shit, right? Like when we're having an experience, we're basically being a vessel in a way. Do you see do you understand me? And that would make sense if you go to Charles Fort, old school, and he says, don't trust your experience. Wait, was it Fort or Keel? No, it was Fort. And it says, don't trust it because it's basically enchantment. Everything you're seeing, hearing, feeling is part of said experience is being projected into you for any reason, right? So none of it's real because, again, we are beings that live on the reality of the EM spectrum. So our brains work on that spectrum. All they got to do is jiggle a little bit of it this way, and everything we're seeing is exactly the way they want. What's up, Screen?
I was just going to point out, based on like the Great Filter and stuff, like how long it would take a civilization to rise to, the technology. Jesus, my bad. The technological point to like to basically have space travel and stuff. Nothing would be left by the time the next civilization came along, except for maybe pyramids and things like that. Like even plastic would be broken down, and there wouldn't be signs of anything. But beyond that, like you were saying, we live in the EM spectrum. We think reality is everything we see, which is only 1% of the EM spectrum. And if you can manipulate that 1% of the EM spectrum, you're essentially manipulating reality or what humans see. So if you can, exist in infrared or something like that, or gamma, we wouldn't even be able to detect you except for our bodies. And, it's a lot of that sounds like what's going on. But there's this document nobody ever talks about. It's called Project Orion. It's from like KGB, and basically it's like the King's List translated and stuff, and it gets into how the Earth was formed, the Atlanteans, like all of that, and they essentially say that there was like the Nephilim, basically, energetic race of beings, and that's where people came from eventually. And it's kind of like what you're talking about, like how we're like vessels, basically. If you're energy, you would only need to hop in vessels to interact with other things in that same spectrum, right? So, it's not like you have to be in that state all the time. But also, what exactly are the other? I'm not familiar with that.
I'll get to that in a second, but I'll forget this. Remind me of that question. Damn, I'm almost forgotten it. Oh, you said it's a matter of manipulating matter, right? You said if we're just vessels. Good point. The only reason I want to piggyback is this. Everything I've been talking about is dependent on that. Time travel, portals, things like that, right? If we're just a vessel, and once we figure that out, it's exactly what Project Pegasus, all these other things are. So that's my opinion. What was your question now, Screen? Oh, the others. It's just a term used by lots of individuals, actually. And so John Ramirez is one and all that. They refer to them as the others. The others being, I'm pretty sure, the energy beings, the ones behind. So the way I see a structure, like if it's a mafia organization, is like you got the energy, the others, and I think there's also a bad equivalent from a negative thing, but you have the others, and what we see here is all them, but what we were just talking about, maybe.
Okay, I got you. Yeah,
You
see,
see
to
what I
me,
mean? Like, so the
that's
others
the
are
other
basically the
portion
energy
of the
beings,
spectrum.
and everything else is their puppets.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Like, I've shared it before, but like when you get into the occult, the hidden, uh, you have things like they talk about the unseen and the others. It sounds just like that. If it's not in the visible light spectrum, we just know it's there, but we can't really see it or interact, right? So it's like unseen. It's other. It's beyond us. But yeah, like I can't stress that enough. Like everything we see and call reality, like everything we interact with is visible light bouncing off of like sound vibrations. So we're already seeing a reflection to begin with, and that's less than 1%. Like we're missing out on 99.9%. It's actually like 0.001% or something like that. So it's like insane. Like we act like none of that stuff can happen, but yeah, sound people need to get up with sound and light. And then, I'm always talking about consciousness, and UAP is like always around radar and things that manipulate the EM spectrum. That's why there's like the nuclear connection and stuff. Maybe they're just by that being around, it changes the atmosphere where we're seeing the stuff that we don't normally see. It could be that simple.
Absolutely. Damn it! You just said something I wanted to key off of too, and I don't remember. Just do me a favor, retweet the space. We're gonna keep it going till Fringe's space, and then we'll roll over there. So I appreciate it. Hey, Tom. Actually,
Yo,
hold up.
yo.
Hold on. Screen. Reverse a little bit. You said something that was super important too about the others. It said makes sense right after that.
Yeah, just about how that would probably refer to the the other part of reality or the EM spectrum that we
That's what I
can't
wanted
see.
to hear. Thank you. I couldn't. Sorry, guys. I have some pretty severe ADHD, really severe. But multi-spectrum cameras. I've heard that from a couple places that they're important for that reason. We see a part of reality, and that would also, if you ask me, so the ghost dimension that Leslie Keene, I think, talked about, things like that. Uh, I imagine our government knows way more than just UAP because all of it's intertwined in a way, and that's my belief. I'm a Keel, Jacques Vallée type guy, so I think it's intertwined, and I think it's important that if we approach it, here's what's getting wild. All the stuff that used to be relegated to conspiracy, yeah, it kind of still is, but more people are talking about it, and not just because, oh, it's there and it's entertainment, because as you go down this rabbit hole, as more and more info comes out about what our government's been doing, the stuff we've been lied to and heard and always relegated to that shit, all of a sudden becomes more real because it involves some of the stuff like that, like MH370, the tech, and things along those nature. And it all of a sudden, your head's no longer buried in the sand because if you one thing, it just takes one of these before you start asking yourself, what else are they lying about? Why? Shit. If the government's willing to have treaties, and again, in Schellenberger's article, he says lots of whistleblowers, witnesses said there's treaties and contact. Project Preserve Destiny, Dan Sherman, you need to read the book. Very important because that shit's legit. I'm actually trying to figure out what the difference is between the NSA, USFF, U.S. Air Force's Project Preserve Destiny, and Scott Andrews in the NASA U.S. Air Force group, like Star Kids type. Why there was a difference, and I have a hypothesis, but I'm trying to figure out why they were, kind of two different groups. So it might have been playing nice, like you're an ally, while trying to work another group. I don't know. What's up, Christian? Christian, you live, buddy?
Yeah. So I was gonna say, James Sarkasky said they were talking about biologics, and he got asked why can't we disclose that? Something along those lines. It was like, and he's like, nope, we just can't. We can't. Then he talks about Men in Black, and you're talking about of how there's the real Men in Black, and how they use reverse psychology. But I goes to what you're talking about, right? Being in contact with the others. What deals do we have with them? And it's the reason that James Sikowski thinks that they can't, because I understand technology. I don't want our adversaries to know what we have, but why can't they give us bodies? Like what national that I don't understand that. But he said that no, like I can't tell you anymore, and I wonder if they got a deal with the non-human intelligence, and they're like, nope. If you say, like basically they're the bosses of of the fucking earth, not the
Christian,
president.
if
Yeah.
I may throw something your way real quick too, because I pondered this question, and you and I have obviously spoken, many times outside of Twitter. Um, I think one of the possibilities here that they can't release the biologics is because the genetic information that they've pulled from the biologics may potentially show a hereditary relationship between humans and these beings. I think that
I
that
didn't
could
mean to
very
laugh
well be
at you. You're
part of it.
spot on, Tom. I didn't mean to laugh at you.
No, no, it's all good, man.
I was trying to give you something else, but yeah, you're
I've
spot
done
on. I
that
mean,
before.
not only that, look, I'm telling you now, if you don't think the United States government won't attempt to reverse engineer biologics to weaponize or to, some form, just think about the programs with MK Ultra. Holla friends, I'm an MK Ultra fanatic, right? Don't ask. But the point being is that kind of shit's real. They got Project Superman, Pegasus. You have what else was there? Philadelphia experiment. All these things that we were taught bullshit all play on each other. Start here, right? Cause red mirrors. The CIA took it very seriously. Obviously, they're trying to weaponize psychic ability, these kind of things. These mirrors, they can. So they took it. Montauk chair, the Minerva monster, very real, right? What happened at Montauk was exaggerated. Some of the people that said they were involved weren't, but it was a legit experience. And what they did is they used a chair instead of the mirror, some upgrade, and it was a way of harnessing psychic energy so that you could do these things. And they just Philadelphia to Montauk, and they just kept upgrading, right, all the way to this. You take Philadelphia and Montauk, you mobilize them and turn them to like what we did with from a phone to a cell phone. What you get is an MH370. The platform being the platform, because the legacy source told me you need 2 platforms to portal matter. And he was serious. We've been able to do it since then. And that's what we're seeing. That's all red in there. So again, it's a matter of those orbs are basically the same thing on the other end. It's probably vertical. You got a platform, which that platform is going to go to. It's not super mysterious like everyone would think, because again, if the Philadelphia experiment was real and that was the start, and there was this, let's say the witness actually said for the MH370, there was this fiery hue. If you change the way you do it, Philadelphia experiment, there was a green hue. If you more energy, things like that could happen. So each one of these build on each other. So it's like, obviously, they know way more than we could ever begin. So shit, I'm on Project Serpo right now. Was it Project Serpo? Sounds wild as shit, guys. But why do you disinfo something so hard that it has nothing real to it at all? And Doty was in there disinfoing it. So I'm super interested in if we really had some kind of an exchange with the EV, was it the Evens of the Even planet? Some shit like that. What's up, screen?
Dang, my bad. I'm multitasking, y'all. Yeah, the MH370 thing. That's the perfect way to do disinfo, right? Like, the spheres. They do this, and as far as portals work, yeah, you would need two platforms because you have to link the point in time, right? So that way you don't end up in space or whatever. But basically, and there's this experiment they did like back in like the 60s, where they just basically played the frequency of some bacteria over the phone line and transported it from like Italy to Russia or something like that. It was very interesting. But the MH370 thing, that's the perfect way to do disinfo because it's pretty obvious. I'm all in on the sphere network, but I don't think the spheres in that video are real. And I'm even up for portals too. I just don't think the end of it is real or whatever. I've never seen the spheres do loop-de-loos.
I think you cut out, brother. Did he cut out for everybody or just me?
No, I can't hear him either.
Okay, let me update you, bro. Here's what I think about that. It could be. It could be all the things you said. The reason I think it's real, I was actually investigating some other shit. What I was investigating was essentially what Tom DeLong writes about. Private companies, NGOs with tech. And the reverse engineered tech and the shadow war. So kind of what his books were about. And then I get to a point where I find the companies. And then I also have information that those companies are involved in MH370. Now, bear with me. I didn't know the videos existed, didn't know the conspiracy yet. Okay. Just that they were involved in the disappearance. Had no clue about the videos. But as I take all this information and put it together and then run it by people, it gets realer and realer, right? And here's the thing. If I take what my legacy source told me about Bortles' Philadelphia experiment, what we already know, things like that, right? And we take the fact that Lou says that our government has got it compartmentalized, it's not non-funded, but NGOs like, any of these companies, Northrop, Lockheed, they're pouring money into
Raytheon.
it. So if you take, yeah, Raytheon, they're taking it seriously. I think it takes a step further. BlackRock, who has stakes in all these companies, imagine if you know this tech's real because you have multiple companies that have said tech, and you have your own mercenary group. Eric, right? In Blackwater, whatever you want to call it. And both of those groups are actually tied to China. They both have contracts with the military, Chinese military. There's a Chinese radio call on the MH370, right? That happens. The thing is this, all the money, what the government's going to be doing points to those. And then from what I know from our legacy source about the way portals work, a portal that we would see would be basically what we saw on MH370, except it'd be, I don't know if the orbs would be there or not, but you'd have energy that would be, you'd have to create some kind of, I guess, gravitational effect there, right? So taking those two, and again, I brought this information to somebody, and I don't know how much, because I only got to a certain point, but I do believe maybe the portal's not, but the orbs, matter of fact, I think I just posted Delta 2 Space Force Squadron, right? Their little job is to react quickly and record that kind of shit, or figure out what that shit is. I think that's them recording. They're using the sentient satellite to record from above. And what you're seeing is actually those three orbs are private companies. And because they have gravity drives, gravity's just perturbing that area, right? And they're being pulled, so it's obviously compressing in the front. You can see that. Well, it's no stretch to say, okay, if we have a gravity drive and those three things are gravity drives, if you work those gravity drives in some way I don't understand, you're going to make some kind of fluctuation in space-time in some way, right? And the red glow, the thing that gives it away to me, that's not batteries or a fire. That's the power source and literally like the unit that's saying go to the other platform. That's why those orbs are circling the center of it. It pulls them to it. And I'm telling you now, I think if you turn it vertical in some way and add a bunch of shit, you're going to have the other platform. Like, that's just immobilized. I know I don't think they're orbs like we normally think of them. I think they're mobilized fucking portal platform orbs, right? Not like we think we normally see. I think that there's a big difference. And I also think we find the second platform, we find what happened to MH370. I also think that's near Fish River in an underground megalith that Blackwater and Black Rock are at in Alaska, near Fish River. Shit. Go ahead, Screen Buddy.
I was
Sorry.
just gonna add on to it that yeah, it's just, man, to create a portal, I'm not a portal expert, but I would just imagine that there would be way more type of energy going on, and that the spheres would be putting off so much energy that they would be glowing and things like that. Just because of the amount of energy that it takes to do that stuff. And like I said, I've never seen them move in any other video in that way, like not a single one.
Hold up. There's a second video. If you go, there's a second video of some other plane where people see it. And I'll have to post it in here. It's actually, I think they posted in a thread. It maybe is Spain or something. So I'll post that up in here. But there is another video of them doing the same thing where they go around this intersection. But what I want you to pay attention to is everything I told you. The heat sources about the platform being a battery pack and guidance system to where it's supposed to go. There's a reason the leaker wanted us to see what
Yeah,
was
see,
hot
the
and what
spheres
wasn't.
don't even change color, right? And it's supposed to be infrared.
What'd you say again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In that video, the spheres don't even change color, right?
Well, no. Here's the
So they
thing.
have to heat up or get cold.
No, because, well, cold. You do see the front, right? That is not propulsion up front. What that is compression of space-time. So the back is propelling him forward. That's why I'm telling you, that's exactly how a gravity drive would work, right? And on top of that, if you have a gravity drive, three of them, and you somehow figure out a formula to make them mess with gravity just a little more, we all know that messing with gravity is what creates what? Portals, black holes, and shit. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I could be, but I'm leaning towards every bit of that shit was real because of where I'm at. Some of it probably hyped or whatever. But again, remember the China connection and then the radio call with China.
No, I
Can I
believe that stuff
share
is
my
real, just not in that specific instance.
Because my grandparents were a part of these projects.
Go.
My grandmother's Ann Jewman. She's a psychic remote viewer for the CIA. If you look her up, some of the projects she was involved in were declassified. That's actually where my grandparents met, was the Stargate Project. My grandfather was Sanders Eugene Maggard. He was a part of Operation Jedi Warrior, which was a psychic super soldier program at Fort Bragg in the 70s. My dad was also a Green Beret. I know about two Stargates, one in Zimbabwe in 1991, and the second one was in 2002 when we went to go find Gilgamesh and all that stuff with Mesopotamia, like the real truth.
So did your grandfather talk to the nine?
My grandfather, okay, so he moved to Mexico. They made a movie about it called The Men That Stare at Goats. But what they don't tell you in that movie is that every soldier that was a part of that project either went AWOL or had an accident. My grandpa, along with a lot of others, moved to Jalisco, Mexico. My grandmother is still alive. She lives in Georgia. She's still very active in this stuff. She works for a corporation called PSI Tech, which is like Astral Security. You can also pay this corporation for their services. If you want to go to their website.
Linking to the papers and the website and the thread down here for people
Sure,
to go to.
I got you right now. And I posted the non-disclosure agreement for my grandma already in there. I can post some other photos. There's a lot of stuff, because my dad, he was also a Green Beret. There's like a whole nother story about Kandahar in 2002. I've posted photos of that team on my page as well. This is my real government name. I'm just trying to get justice because I was actually kidnapped and sold as a baby into this family. So that's my whole story-ish. Besides my parents being murdered, my mom was murdered on my birthday and my dad was murdered on Father's Day.
All right, that's a lot to unpack. Holy hell. I'm sorry for all that. Thanks for being in here. So tell me a little bit more. Okay, let's back up.
Okay, so
That
you're
was a
gonna go into
lot.
like remote viewing. So it goes.
Yeah.
It originally started with Montauk, then it went Grill Flame, then it went Stargate, then it went Sunstreak, Center Lane, Gondola's Wish, and Starflame.
By the way, I know it's fast for everybody, but this is recorded. So if you want to come back and go through for nuggets,
Oh,
here,
I
keep going,
posted
Angela.
all the declassified documents, and then I post the redacted and non-redacted version. So if I find it, I post it. I posted all the non-disclosure agreements for the Grill Flame and Stargate project, and if I found their social media accounts, I also linked them.
How many have you found as far as Stargate or Grill Flame that are
Grill
looking
Flame,
for
I
Galactic
found
Federation?
9.
Do you have any that come across the Galactic Federation or remote viewing that?
Oh, that's a whole different subject. If you like those type of documents, I can send them. I'm kind of like into parallel Earth right now. That's like the rabbit hole I'm in because that's kind of what they lean towards.
I'm down. Of course, any of them, but yeah, any kind of Galactic Federation ones, I'm down for. Go ahead, Screen.
Never mind, my bad.
Hey everyone, good to see you, Old Vet, Astral, Tom, Angela, Screen, everyone else who's just listening. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Enjoying listening. Glad to be here. Yeah, I wanted to circle back to the three circles circling the crafts, plural, I guess now, because I very much want to see that other example you were referencing, Old Vet. Do you have any more information on that?
Yep, I'll actually grab it right now. It's in a thread somewhere. It'll take me a minute to find it, but yeah.
Cool, very much appreciated. Yeah, I sent you a message. One of the many things I'm attempting to understand is this topic, and I need to kind of wrap my head around it as thoroughly as possible, quickly for some film related stuff I'm doing, investigating it. But I'm impartial. I'm not actively part of the actual Mr. Forbes investigation. I'm sort of investigating the greater context of everything.
Well,
So
can I
very
give you
much
a
just
tip?
need.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but he literally started at it was aliens, and he's almost to where I'm at. Just a tip, almost. Like I don't know what's going on. Great that he's loud, the loudest voice in the room and shit, but he's not quite there yet. Everything I've said in here, yeah, he's not quite there. But I'm gonna put that in there right now. He's literally almost to where I'm at. Like he keeps changing from the get go. I've been saying Black Walk, Black Router, Portal, these, that. It's in Alaska, underground base, all this, and I think we're gonna get there. But not trying to toot my own horn, but toot toot.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm
Don't
not an
forget
expert in
about Wright
this as of
Pat.
yet, but
Wright
yeah.
Patterson Air Force Base. That's where the other one is.
Fantastic guests all along. Very, very good. I'm sure you're all right. But yeah, it's not the one that I'm not allowed to talk about. So, but you know what? I mean, I'm just looking into it. I don't obviously represent anyone's views. I'm just trying to learn about it. And it's I can talk about it more privately. But yeah, it's interesting from all angles. I'm only interested in being involved on an ethical level, just looking at the facts as my own private investigator into this stuff. So I'm really eager to learn these different perspectives. Although, I'm not saying who's right or wrong, if anyone is, but Old Vet, the things you're saying increasingly seem to be lining up with what some other people are hypothesizing about, the sort of motivation behind this, conjectural scenario.
Here's another thing for you, you and your investigators. So check out Space Force Delta 2 program, or Delta 2. So Delta 2 is basically their quick reaction, their actual combat force. I think they're the ones you're seeing in the video, like I said, because Sentient, which is our AI UAP tracking, is what's tracking them. And that's what he keeps talking about, the big screen. I think that there, right? Now, I posted a link to that, and I'm not trying to knock him because, again, the only reason this takes a pretty big handle of the UAP topic to get to where I'm at, and I have that. And that's why I'm like, oh, that's easy. I know exactly what that is because that's like Montauk this. That's why it was far easier. And I know it sounds crazy and stuff like that. But just hey, if you need anything, reach out. I'll give you any of the information I have. And I will tell you this. The one thing about me is I always take this information if I'm going to throw it out there and say it, and I'll try to say, hey, to sources. And my sources are legit, and none of them lied to me yet. And when I took what I had, I didn't get a comment on the actual videos, right? But I'll tell you this, I think they're real because of what I know. But when I took what I had about the players involved and why, I mean, my source gave me a comment that's, he's like, your fucking research skills and brain, right? So I'm taking that with the fact that I also know from other individuals that some of this stuff goes on in Blackwater and Black Rock with China and those things align. And the portal thing you had brought up earlier too. And I know one of the things that's hard for people who don't understand the tech and stuff like that, if you just go look at like some of like the different Montauk experiments, Philadelphia, shit, we started in the 50s and 60s.
We
So
went all the way down
obviously,
to telepathic hypnosis.
yeah. So let me get that video. Sorry, you got me talking. I like talking about it and trying to toot my own horn every now and again. But
It's awesome. No, it's cool. And you mentioned I don't think anyone who's been talking since you guys started is crazy in any way. You mentioned that, so I mean, obviously we make these disclaimers in terms of interacting with the normal civilians, but no, I'm very open minded to all these possibilities, and I really appreciate all the expertise you have on this. All the people here really. Yeah, it's a lot to learn quickly, especially I've been talking to a really cool quantum physicists, for example, about it. So it's been a lot of fun, but I do not delude myself in thinking I'm the expert that's going to piece it together. So I'm kind of systematically reaching out to all the top experts that can verify this and can provide all aspects of information. And
So
it's been a fun
Mello,
ride so far. Yes,
do
let's
you want
collaborate.
my grandma's cell phone number? I'll tell her that you're gonna call. I haven't really given it out yet, but if you want that interview, you can have it.
Okay, cool. We're looking to interview anyone who's. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all
hey,
the
check this out,
sources of
Mello.
information.
Here's another tip. The reason I keep tooting my horn, everything lines up. That Delta 2, go look at in the post, it's up in the thread. Go look at their locations. They sure as hell look like a quick reaction force. Some of those locations are Diego Garcia. Yeah. So what I'm telling you is we have a quick reaction force for UAPs. We've known that for a minute. I've been screaming Majestic 12, whatever you want to name it. They may have been a fake name. Under Reagan it had something IP something. But my point is, all these groups are all over the place. With Sentient, that's easy. It's an AI tracking program. And here's the kicker. That AI tracking program relies on semiconductors. No semiconductors were game changers. And guess who wants to be the superpower? China. And guess who's connected to the Chinese military? Eric, who's providing colleges for their military. And you have Blackwater, and all the board members have literal board member jobs on companies in China or have projects going on in China. So then it's just a matter of, okay, all these things add up. Where is platform 2? And right now I think it's near Fish River in Alaska. There's an underground fucking pyramid because I think if these guys took craft or shit seriously, which they obviously did, and they knew, oh shit, this is all real, megaliths are real. Again, private companies getting all the power, and that's what Lou and the Shadow War, I think, is talking about. The Shadow War is literally our government and them talking about a third party nation. No, it's NGOs. Imagine companies that have tech that you can't even compete with, and that's what's going on.
Shane, let me ask you a question real quick in the midst of this that ties into everything you're saying. From what I understand, most of these companies would be exempt from FOIAs, would they not?
Oh, 100%, and that's the kicker. Most of these companies are going to be exempt from a lot of stuff, but I can promise you, I don't want to say saviors because we shouldn't hold them up like that, but the Disclosure Posse knows this. The Disclosure Posse has individuals that understand this, and there's a way for Congress. Some of these companies right now, I know for a fact, are scared shitless because people know if this continues rolling, they're going to prison. Because what has happened is this: our government took
Yep.
them stuff, crash retrievals, said, "Hey, here's the deal. This is what we're going to do." In that deal, nowhere was build your own shit and make money off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Or
they
use it
did,
in a military function,
and
you know,
so
secretly.
far, far in advance, right? So if they've been taking it seriously, and you can go look on my Twitter, there's posts from BDM, nor all these companies. It's not just one.
Well, Akatsky talked about in the very beginning on how Bigelow got the contract for OSAP.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
put out the contract and they had to do it publicly, and Bigelow was like the only one. He was like, we didn't know what we were doing, and we just framed the question of how would you study this, and Bigelow presented the most logical way. So like that was I would have thought, and I thought that people were going to be like, okay, Bigelow has the answers now, like he has to be the guy. He was basically studying it for them and then telling them the information, and that was the disconnect of liability, was that Bigelow was contracted out to do the research for OSAP, and so that he's the guy who's been doing it. And another thing too, Tom, of what you were saying earlier, is what he's doing now of basically paying mediums and channelers for their information that they're getting about the future and
Right.
any kind
Yes.
of climatic or something catastrophic events. That so he's taking a scientific perspective where he's not being like, okay, I'm only going to focus on 5 of the best ones. He's like, I'm going to get accounts from 10,000 of people, remote, whether it's remote viewers, channelers, out of body experiences, people who are doing DMT, like
Bingo.
millions of dollars he's just spent on this round. And so he's going to probably like add it to this database, have AI scrub through it, and it be like, well, the top 3 events that everybody is talking about is 1, a pole shift,
That's
2, a
such a good
tsunami,
point.
and like 3, a disclosure event. And so that, and he's going to be like, well, shit, that's probably going to happen in the next 15
I
years.
Bro,
think you
Like,
guys are forgetting to add a factor to it. They also have had programs at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base involving children from like babies all the way up just in this topic. So like
maybe
Oh
indigo
yeah. No, we're
children,
not
right?
forgetting Angela. I'm a MK Ultra type fanatic, right?
I
The
am
whole
too. That's my whole story, is trying to bring
Yo,
awareness.
Angelo was in our space the other night, with Astral and I, and laid out like her entire story to us. Like, and I get, again, I'll say this on your behalf, Angela, just from being in the space with her for as long as we were, for a couple hours. Like, I know she's new to you, Shane. Like, she has my blessing. Let me say that. Like, I think she's absolutely legit.
This is my
Straight up.
real government name. I do that on purpose because honestly, that's the only reason why I got so many followers on TikTok, is because trolls, they like to dox people, and I challenged them to discredit me, and they couldn't.
This is my real name. My real name too, and I can promise you,
Yeah,
go
this
to a
is also
UFO
my real
convention,
name.
and that whole challenging thing goes out the window when your first crazy comes up.
Oh, I
So
live in the town that I was kidnapped out of because, my mom was murdered on my birthday. She was electrocuted from the inside out at UNC Chapel Hill, and I was refused an autopsy because I had to prove I was her daughter. So I live here on purpose. They have to look me in the face. I'm literally 20 minutes away from Fort Bragg, where all this stuff happened. My abuse happened at Wright Pat. I have documents from 1984, 1986 where they admitted to testing on children for PSI research. But I'm specifically looking for the years 1991 or 1999, through those years, or get access to my own TRICARE records. Because I started running away at age 5. I told everybody that would listen. They didn't do anything because who my adopted family is and, how much money they are. Also, my sealed adoption file is completely missing from vital records.
are
It's
you
in
an
a
indigo
different.
child?
Yes, sir. I
There
found my
you
mom
go.
through a dream. I found my birth mother through a dream, and I know how crazy that sounds, but my grandma's
No,
still
it
alive.
doesn't sound crazy, Angela. Actually, that's why I asked you if you're an indigo child when you're saying all that. So that's could be one of the reasons. Now,
I actually
everything.
knew my mom was going to die before she died. We talked about it a lot. Thankfully, I have all the stuff in text messages and stuff. So, and
You
she wrote
kind
a
of
book
talk
before
about
she
stuff
died.
like I do. I mean, I don't, let me put it this way. My hunch and things like that, stuff like that. That's why I asked if you were an indigo
Oh, I
child.
have success stories. There was a little girl, 13-year-old, was kidnapped out of New York this March by a 27-year-old man out of Pennsylvania. The FBI was involved. They were treating it as a runaway case. I was only emotionally invested in it because it's my husband's cousin's daughter. So all I had to go off of was his Xbox account name, his first name, and the state he is from. I did find him in a couple hours. I relayed the information to the FBI, and it took them over 8 hours to go and locate her. They were more concerned with how I got the information than that I was actually right. They did find her exactly where I said she was. She was assaulted, but she's alive. I've also worked with local police here in Harnett County, finding 2 missing women and a missing man. Unfortunately, they were not alive when we found them, but we were able to give their family closure. So thankfully, I do have like references and stuff throughout the years.
Right on. And hey, before we get over the screen, do me a favor, guys, retweet the space. We're gonna keep it going probably till Fringe's space. Right. So we'll keep this shit going. Hey, what's up, Garrett? I forgot what I was gonna ask you earlier. It was something about the dam. I don't remember now. So I'll remember. What's up, screen? Go ahead.
My bad. I'm getting ready. Shit. What is it? Oh yeah. You had a good point earlier. You said people don't understand this tech. Uh, people don't understand a lot, and we do a lot of speculating. Everything in that Image 370 video, we're pretty much speculating on. But the way portals and shit like that work, that is not speculation. The amount of energy that you would need, we're talking kilojoules, like more than multiple Tesla coils could provide. And that's exciting electrons. They're speeding up and move, or slowing down, whichever way they're producing the superconductive effect. You would see that on the heat signature in that video. There's none of that going on, and the little blip, I'm just not buying that. You know what I mean? But also Bigelow even said, I forget who the interview was, it was like one of the most recent ones. He basically said, you don't need to know unless you have money. Those contractors, like maybe the military finds some, like the one that what's his name, James whatever was talking about, the Katsky. The military finds this stuff. Then they go find the guys that figure out how it works. That's where the contractors come in. So it's not like they're getting militaries. That's their shit. They do all the money stuff. That's how the contracts work. Like Raytheon, who did the Iron Dome for Israel, that's how that works. Like they got the contract for Israel to make all the shit, and the deal is you have to shop with them. So like that's how they funnel the money. That's how they do all the stuff. Like just to put that out there, that's how things work.
And it's all a lot of good points, but I'd like to point out that there's been instances of UAP experiences where the military's been portaled. They talk about things like that, but I'll say that I don't think you need that amount of energy for what they're doing. I think the platform that's glowing orange isn't on fire. It's not batteries. It's like a GPS unit calling them. Come here. It's
But
here.
they have
And
also done studies where people can emit this energy themselves, and there are certain individuals that are, I wouldn't call them conduits, but they can manifest or project this type of energy.
well,
It's
yeah,
glowing orange because it's putting out the amount of energy the sun would.
okay. You talking about the platform? Yes, I agree. I'm telling you what I think that platform is this. It doesn't take a lot of energy because most of the energy is involved in those gravity drives. What that is calling them to where it's supposed to be and telling it where to go. Basically, it's saying go to the other platform. Those 2 platforms are matches. So it's literally it needs minimal battery pack, right? Because if the gravity drives are the one opening the door and all that needs is battery for destination, right? It's just charged
Yeah,
like
but it
come here,
doesn't
take me there.
even
That's
with
what
the
I think.
Kozarev mirrors, it's reflecting EM waves. That's what mirrors do.
Yeah,
So
but
like you have to manipulate the magnetic field somehow.
I agree with all this, but if they can use the Kozyrev mirrors, right? They have them designed in this way. How do we not know that's happening? And arguing because you're wrong, because these are all valid points, but you're wrong, fucking screen. No, that's it with you, brother. These are all actually good points. I just think it's that orange platform is essentially like a dial saying, take me here. And it's telling the orbs to come, which those orbs are the ones that open the door. So the door opens, the platform says, go to the other platform. So wherever that is, that's how I think it works. And I think maybe it takes minimal. But again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that shit works. And you could be 100% right.
Well, that's where the ELF comes in, the extremely low frequencies, and that's how the things like Stonehenge and the megalithic sites work. It's such a massive amount that it's a low frequency, right? Those little spheres aren't a massive amount.
Well,
You
no,
know, that's why
technically,
it's illegal to broadcast on all the lower networks. Like I used to do alarm systems and stuff. So like,
no,
you know,
technically,
it's like,
brother, it's the
dude,
opposite.
it's like classified. And you know who nobody talks about in this field? GE. They're huge in this shit.
I
Or
agree with
look
you,
into the
but
Bosnian pyramids, how they emit their own electromagnetic frequency. And also, like, when you're in them, you don't get any outside radiation whatsoever. So they were able to, like, weaponize this a long time ago. And I find it interesting that two different civilizations lived there. And the second civilization completely rocked it off. Why would they do that?
so check this out. It's actually opposite. Elf waves can travel the globe with very little power. You don't need much power output to put elf waves out. Matter of fact, you can do what up to 300, right? It can
That's
circle
why
your
they're so
throat.
big, though. That's why they're megalithic sites, because they're using elf waves. That's how
Well,
big they have to be.
well, oh no, I get that to put the elf wave out, but that's not necessarily true because we had a couple people, I think it was in space the other night, they were saying they work for a company and they know for a fact that some of the patents involve something along the lines like a TV that does shit like puts them out, right? You got to take look at this way. Puharek, the tooth radio, right there. It didn't take much power, anything at all, right? That MK Ultra program. That's where I'm going to stand, and we'll see, brother. Glad you're here, though, dude. Extra good points too, man.
Yeah,
I
no,
could
dude,
be
I
wrong.
love that actually. I'm trying to link how basically they just continued the MK Ultra stuff, but instead of using chemicals to alter they're just using frequency, EMF waves as
Yeah,
just
they did
Yeah,
that. They actually well, I don't want to get in trouble. I only talk about a little bit of stuff, but like they did a lot of things. They would strap you to chairs. They would shove like 7 to 8 pills down your throat at a time. They did injectables. They had you stare at TVs, flashcards. They were really big into journals. A lot of the torture methods that they would use involved sound at really, really loud, obnoxious levels and a repetitive like thing over and over and over again. It was mostly scare tactics. They used fear, even though they had studies where they could get the same results without the fear. That was their main method.
I think they switched it up because the original, like with the Star Kids, and they used to have to beat the shit out of you, basically. PTSD, split those personalities to get what they wanted, put you on a table,
Crazy altars.
spin that shit, to get the after body effects. But now you don't need that when you got Elf.
that's
And I
where
promise
Nolan's
you,
work comes
Elf
in play.
technology is where it's shit at. Hell, Timothy McVeigh, one of his co-conspirators' dad, was connected to what the fuck's his name? Uh, with MK Ultra. I'll post it in here, right? And Timothy McVeigh joined the military with no tooth issues, and his teeth started going. I mean, just the stuff that was happening. He was a special operations group, and everything. If you read Aberration in the, I think it was Aberration in the Heartland. It's by a doctor, right? And all of it points to he was part of an experiment that may have went wrong. I'm not saying he was a Manchurian candidate, but I also believe I read somewhere during his autopsy they found some kind of a viscous fluid. One of the things about elf wave technology is it breaks down your DNA and your RNA. And that's one of the symptoms. Your body starts leaking
You
fluid.
also get overactive adrenal glands. You have thyroid dysfunction. That's actually one thing that we're able to medically document. My doctor, I have an amazing doctor. I'm not gonna lie. She doesn't, discredit any of this stuff. But they are actually able to see a difference. I have overactive adrenal glands all the time. So like, I go 0 to 100 really, really, really fast, and it doesn't stop. And that's just because my body in a constant state of fight or flight forever. It thinks that's normal.
Go ahead, mistress.
Yeah, hey everyone. Loving the discussion at the moment around like MK Ultra. Right up my alley. The thing that I wanted to chime in about is you were mentioning like channelers and stuff. I just last night actually, well, early hours of the morning for her, I was speaking to Inked Pixie, and we did like a call over Instagram, and we talked about a bunch of things. Like she's saying how like she's into the whole MH370 thing, and Diego Garcia. I asked her about that, and I said, is there a chance it's like another Plum Island? And she said, you're absolutely 100% correct in that assertion. But the other thing that we had happen is she was going to tell me some things, and she stopped herself for a little bit because she said, "No, I can't tell you that yet." But then she started channeling, and I actually wrote down sort of roughly what was said, and like they were talking about how like their appearance is really scary, apparently, like the ETs. And you know, like that the appearance is gonna scare you, but look past what we look like to who we are underneath. And the other thing they said was open your mind, not your eyes. And that genuinely floored me. That was quite an, like, I've never firsthand witnessed someone do channeling like right in front of me like that. So that was certainly an experience, but I wrote it down. I'm going to do this in the future if any other stuff happens, because I think that information is going to be important for something. I'm not sure what at this stage. I haven't had any like weird dreams, but I'm gonna be writing stuff down because I feel like I'm gonna need to.
Couldn't click the button. I'm sorry. Hey, Tom, take over real quick. I got to do something real quick.
Yeah, sure. Gotcha. So I guess I'll chime in real quick since we're talking about mind control and MK Ultra. I had brought this up in a previous space, but I guess I'll just kind of touch upon it again really quickly for those that aren't aware of it. A while back, I'd spoken with somebody that works at Skinwalker Ranch. You guys may know him. His name's Caleb Bench. We interviewed him. And then we had another gentleman on the next week. That now, our second interview, it's the first time I had ever heard this, but apparently some of the things that are going on at the ranch are the phenomenon, like legitimately the phenomenon, but that there is a secret covert black operation underway. And what they do is they use the phenomenon as a cover to test out weaponry, whatever, I could probably I wouldn't even I again, I can't confirm this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were also maybe testing out things that can be digested, hallucinogens and such. Who knows, right? They could be injecting things into people in their sleep. You don't know. May not all just be quote unquote weaponry. But so like when someone has an experience at the ranch that maybe wasn't necessarily caught on film, but it was something that they personally experienced, it's a 50-50 chance. It could have been the phenomenon, or it could have been some sort of psychotronic weapon. There was an interview, if you guys have ever heard of the Concrete podcast, one of my favorite shows. There was a gentleman on a few months ago that was talking about stuff like this. He didn't bring up Skinwalker Ranch, but he was talking about what the military industrial complex basically has the capability to do and to pull off these days. And it's frightening. They can put apparently thoughts in your head. They can They can put voices in the sky. And I believe there's declassified documents out there that
I
speak
have them.
about.
I can post them in the space right now if you'd like me
Yeah,
to.
if you
If
could,
you
that would be
guys like to
great.
read, I have 4 years worth of declassified documents on my
I
TikTok page.
have
That's
a
all it
lot of
is.
books. I have that. I have one of probably like one of the largest personal libraries about the
So you were just talking
phenomenon
about
and
the
related
V2K
subjects.
and stuff, and that's
Like the
actually
voice of
100%
God
real.
tech, if
Yeah,
you're familiar with
they
that.
also have like it's funny because there's a lot of patents on these things for mind control. Go look what that. It's really really crazy because a lot of people wear them in their heads every single day, not realizing why it was created, or how it
Right.
originated.
Every
You know,
one
and
of
And
this
us.
it's
goes into that targeted
Check
individual
this out.
bit.
Every one of us have devices we're probably using right now that can put out these elf waves. So the thing about these elf waves, I've heard this from numerous people. You know the old conspiracy about pyramids and their power? It's not a
Yeah,
conspiracy. Hidden in plain sight, right? So there's places that maybe something's designed to look like that, and there's a reason it's designed to look like that. So if you have these, and let's say we talked about Puharich and his tooth radio, and that's kind of where it started because he actually has a paper. It's called Elf Waves for Peace. He's basically suggesting putting that shit out and just making everybody brainless zombies, right? And you got the Gwyn Towers, and then you keep upgrading. Where we're at today in technology, shit. We just had someone in space the other day that said they were well, I believe they were a star kid. And they said they also know there's patents and there's tech like computer monitors, TV, that with a flip of whoever does it, it's putting that perfect elf wave, right? To get you to do whatever. Is that for a Manchurian candidate or is that to get a docile population? Wow, listen to me, fucking
I mean, but
conspiracy
that goes
theorists
right back into
hard.
fluoride, which is a neurotoxin. BPA mimics estrogen. I mean, this is all like it's real shit though. And it sounds crazy. It really does. But when you break it down and you research it, like I'm not gonna say, hey, just listen to me because I'm saying it, write the stuff down, go
that's
go
solid.
investigate it. It's a lot of this stuff is public information. If you want to find declassified files, this is how you do it. Go to cia.gov, scroll all the
Mm,
way down to the bottom of the page, click the Freedom of Information Act, and in that search bar type in anything you want. You got to be very specific though because a lot of these
yeah, it's
projects are
tricky
named after
wording.
other things. So like when I'm looking up the Stargate project, you have to write in certain code words like grill flames, the actual projects. Don't just put Stargate or you're going to get like 50 different pages. When I want to look into so like I'm in a telepathic hypnosis. That's my current like little deep dive that I've been on for a while now, just because like that's something they've been working on for 47 years. And um, it's something I've experienced before, and I'm just curious on like the science behind it. They have a lot of information on how they have weaponized this. They also target certain specific DNA. Why do you think they're really interested in DNA? Why do you think certain people have bought companies, involving this? They're trying to weaponize it.
Oh gosh,
That
and
along with
yes, you are
data,
correct. So check this out.
like Me 23 and
1997.
all that.
In 1997, Jason and the Miter Corp did the Human Genome Project. And the whole point behind that, John Ramirez talks about, we're hybrids. Not only are we hybrids, some of those hybrids have been tinkered with a little bit more. That's what I think the indigo
Like
chill,
RH negative. I
yes,
don't have any
RH
science
negative.
behind that, but that's the blood that I have and my mother has. So I don't know all of
You
the
have
answers.
RH negative?
Yes,
Really?
sir.
Fast out.
So does my
Oh
birth
man,
mother.
the plot thickens.
Oh, yeah, all of this stuff is legit.
Guess who my biological great aunt is? Ava Gardner. Who was her sister? What was she involved in? The CIA. So both my biological and adopted family had ties. It's kind of insane. It really is.
And another point is this. When we start
Wow.
looking at information, like she's talking about, you can go to the CIA. You can also go to archive.org and they have a huge collection of different ones, right? When you start finding documents, right? For example, Stargate, then they're doing training, but the training's on the Galactic Federation. Then you find papers on the Galactic Federation. Then you have people who used to be in the government of both Canada and Israel talk about a Galactic Federation. At what point do you say, maybe there's something, right? Again, most people won't even look into it, and I will. And again, you will easily get the all right. Come on, but I'm telling you right now, when you have pieces of information about this subject that are all over the place like that, I wouldn't
They
doubt that
all tie back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I know I say this on repeat, but it's important. And if everyone would look there, all your answers, well, not all of them, that they all tie there. They all correlate.
Raina, go
What
ahead.
topic of the Galactic Federation, can you please tell me, like, when you see it cited, what kind of context it's in, what kind of narrative it can...
So here's what I found. Also, I'm going to shout out to Jack Safardi. He was part of Stargate. Just so you know, I found papers. Jack's name's all over him, right? How freaking cool. The other thing is
like
this.
Jack.
I found a paper, and it was talking, and it was basically, so my understanding is this: it was training for the Stargate program, and they asked an individual to remote view the Galactic Federation. Now, in my head, how would you train an individual on something that didn't exist or other people couldn't see to say it was there? He did it, right? And then I actually posted, it's in by Lake Titicaca, and I think I found a spot that looks like it, and I posted the 3D thing. I'll try to get it in here in a second. But on top of that, the same individual found another spot near, was it in Alaska Mountain? Was it Henry? Matt Adams. Henry. I messed up now. It's in Alaska, right? So on top of that, I know Spartan 1 and 2 talk about megalith in Antarctica. That I know from a source has things in it that sounds so similar to what was drawn on the RV, and Spartan 1 and 2 kind of talk about them.
Don't forget in Jalisco, Mexico, in between Guadalajara and Jalapa, they have ruins there that correlate with Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and the Mound of Eden in Ohio, the tablet that they found there. They're written by the same people, but different time periods.
Hey, Tom, take over. I'm going to post that for you, Mello.
Oh, yeah.
You got it.
Much, yeah.
So, thinking about all these different rabbit holes and such, something that kind of came to mind when Angela was talking about people in her family and who the mother is and what they did. I found it really interesting, and I haven't dug too deep into this, but I know that there's been some significant research done on it. I find it really interesting that when you go into like 60s counterculture, and I'm sure some of you know where I'm going with this, that you'll find, like, for example, like Jim Morrison's father was like high-ranking military. It's like there's a lot of people think that some of these social movements that we see happen that essentially alter the course of society are actually like social engineering programs. Like, some people really believe that the hippie movement was like engineered. Not to say that it was like necessarily a bad thing per se. The hippie movement brought us my favorite musician, Jimi Hendrix, brought us Cream, Black Sabbath, like a lot of great things, being that I'm a guitar player. Like, I appreciate those things deeply, regardless of their origin. But if you take that into consideration, you have to wonder, like, what else falls into that category and what are they doing now? And I'm not going to get political. I'm not even going to speculate. I'll allow you, the listener, to do that. But I'm sure that we could probably take a couple guesses at what is going on in modern times that may be a part of that social engineering. I'll give you one, though. I'll give you one. I kind of feel that the kids being stuck to their phones and being on the computers, not going outside and playing in the mud, and riding their bikes and getting hurt and scraping their knees like we did as kids. I almost feel like some of that is related to this. What the purpose and reasoning for it is, I couldn't tell you, and I could just be way off. But it feels like it's encouraged a lot of times. You don't. How many commercials do you see that encourages kids to go play outside, right? Maybe a couple would be like the MLB sponsors this or that, or the NBA says, get out and shoot some hoops, which I agree with. I shoot hoops all the time. It's how I stay in shape. But compare that to the amount of media that is pushed upon us through advertising in every sector of life at this point. You can't get away with it. You can't open up a fucking weather app without getting an ad. And how many of those ads are geared towards keeping an individual, especially kids, young adolescents and teenagers, keeping them glued to their screens? I find that really suspicious, honestly. I really do. And I might just be way off. That might just be like that little conspiracy theorist in me that I think all of us here have. But I find it really fishy. I don't know. Go ahead, mistress.
Oh, I think Raina was before me.
I knew you'd say that because we know each other.
Oh, I like it. Love to see it.
Tom, I bet you're getting some relief. I feel it. I know it. And I don't know if you guys are the one who does the remote viewing thing. You stick some stuff up there, and is that you? Anybody here?
No, he actually left because Tom upset him. No, he actually had to go. So he's
Oh,
not here. He just left.
no, that's
What
not.
did I do?
That's not a problem. I'll just skip it anyway. Whatever. Angela, I met you. I heard you talk before, and I'm very interested. I was then. I still am about your psychic, whatever. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not. I just don't remember what you called it. And I have a question for you. Can you explain to me what this means to you? Supercomputer. Thanks.
What does a supercomputer mean to me? I take that as processing multiple, mass majority of information simultaneously all at the same time. But like major, not just like your regular computer. I'm talking about like all different networks like simultaneously on this like super. It just stores everything in like real time, so you wouldn't have to like wait a long period of time for this stuff. It's like instantly there.
Is that a man-made supercomputer, or could it be something else?
I would think that it would be both man-made and whatever you want to call it, technology.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's pretty spot on. A supercomputer, what are supercomputers really at the heart of the matter designed to do? They're really designed to take massive amounts of data and to sift through it, maybe find patterns, maybe to solve potential equations, or try to crack passwords. If any of you have ever hacked, I used to be involved in like a little bit of like hobbyist computer hacking, we'll say, back when I was doing things that they didn't have laws for yet. And I can tell you like a key generator is a good example. Like you run a key gen, and it runs through as quickly as possible the various different combinations for a password, and once it lands on it, it grabs it, and then you're able to get in. Now a supercomputer, because you're now dealing with much longer passwords, two-step verification and such, they are designed to do that, but way faster, right? But let's go a step further. Quantum computers can take what a supercomputer does and cut that time into like eighths. Like if it took a supercomputer, say 20 days to crack a password, a quantum computer is doing that in milliseconds. If not, it's wicked powerful technology. Like I don't think people understand where we're going right now with artificial intelligence. I don't think people realize just how dangerous this is going to get as far as like, cybersecurity, cyber terrorism, even. And I know these are all buzzwords and some people don't trust the mainstream media and stuff. These things do exist. Like it is a real thing. There really is cyber terrorism where they're trying to crack into banks. They're trying to take your money. It's a real thing. There's a lot of devious shit going on out there. People on their Tor browsers, the dark web, you name it. It exists. It's a real thing. But the world is moving so incredibly fast. Like 10 years from now, the fastest computer on Earth is going to make our current fastest computer look like chump change. It's going to make it look outdated. Probably in 3 years, it's going to, we're moving very quickly. And there have been very recent, within the last couple months, there have been some technological leap forwards that have occurred in relation to quantum computing that make certain things possible now. And then, you have your theoretical room temperature superconductors and such. Like we are really, really close to opening a technological Pandora's box that we are probably not going to be able to shut. So when it's open, we need to have a plan in place to prepare to prepare for that being a part of our world. Like it all sounds cool, sentient artificial intelligence and quantum computing, all of these different things. Like, I'm reading Michio Kaku's book that just came out not that long ago. It's really interesting. And it's also terrifying. I mean, yeah, sure, like maybe one of these computers could take the collective data that we have about a certain disease, right? And you input, I mean, everything that we have, everything, all the research papers, all the things that we know. And it just analyzes the data. It finds a pattern. It's like, oh, it was right in front of your face. This is how you solve cancer. This is how you get rid of diabetes. All those types of things. But then on the other hand, think about what you could do with that type of technology to weaponize it. You could potentially figure out any possible move your enemy could make based on the positioning of their troops. It's endless, and I find it. I also kind of find it funny and ironic that we're also entering, an era where I think we're going to be fighting wars with less troops on the ground and with more like robotics, and it's just like, it's not kind of stupid. At the end of the day, like, why are we even doing this? Wouldn't it be better to maybe? How about we do this? How about our AI that represents the United States and China's AI? How about those two AI have a conversation and we just come to an agreement where nobody has to shoot at each other and we just figure out what's best for both sides, right? Like, why don't we just try to work together? Like, sure, we're not communist, we're not neo-communist. Yeah, sure, like the Chinese government is guilty of violations, against human rights and such. So is the fucking United States. Like, none of these governments are actually perfect. But do we really want a world led by China? Absolutely not. But how can we figure out a way to coexist where, yeah, we don't necessarily agree with the way that you do things in particular, but we have to take a step back too and remember that, like, that's their culture, and sometimes it's really ingrained into the hearts and minds of those people, just like it is over here. Like, we value freedom so deeply, whereas there's other parts of the world that don't, that believe that they need to be ruled. But there's got to be a way to coexist. I believe there is a way. We just haven't figured that out yet. But I think in order for humanity to succeed and for us to become, type 2, type 3 civilization, we're going to have to do it. We got to get our heads out of our asses. We got to stop fighting these archaic wars and start treating each other with a little bit more respect. I went off on a little bit of a tangent. I apologize.
I just want to piggyback and ask you a question. I know there's hands up, and please forgive me, but Tom, that intelligence is here now?
I think behind the scenes, the capability of artificial intelligence is vastly superior to what we know publicly. Do I think it's sentient? No. I don't have any reason to believe that yet. But do I believe that there is something going on behind the scenes that's way closer? Yeah. And I also believe, based on some information that's public knowledge, and it might sound silly, but it has to do with video games. They are very, very close behind the scenes to having a virtual reality headset similar to what you would see in like Sword Art Online. If anybody's familiar with that anime, where Jack is, it's like you're essentially jacking into the Matrix. They're way closer behind the scenes to being able to do that than you realize. To be able to basically hijack the electrical receptors in your brain and make you see certain things. Like, it's way closer.
Hey,
Hold up,
sorry,
Ron. Hold up. So we got other people in front too, so just hold for quick. Anyway, I was going to say AI is very important. And to bring it back, go to ai.gov and you'll see that from this point on, everything requires semiconductors. The ICBM revitalization by General Kohler, semiconductors. If those semiconductors are special in a way of giving you some kind of a low radar cross section, and that low radar cross section is what you want to get as close as you possibly can. And that's another image that but again, all of this stuff stacks to make what Tom DeLonge's books are about, which is what I'm talking about. So it's about UFOs, and it's about non-government organizations having tech that we would not even understand exist. So we need to move around the room, though. Who was that? I think it was Mistress, Ray, then Ronan, or am I wrong?
Mr. Civic, we go, or you can go.
Yeah, I'll be quick. It won't take too long. Yeah, it's a shame Angela's gone, because I was actually wanting to talk to her a bit, but I'll sort of say what I can regardless. Like when it comes to the hypnosis side of things and MK Ultra, that kind of thing is right up my alley because like I've done investigations with that kind of thing myself. I was talking to Ink Pixie about it, and what I was explaining is that there's been multiple instances where I've been able to create a bridge between me and someone else. Now, this person can be on the other side of the world. It doesn't matter where you are. All I have to do is be able to like speak to that person, and I've been able to create like a psychic bridge where we can like connect and get together almost in like a virtual kind of like um, mind palace kind of place to talk about all kinds of different things, similar to what we do with technology, but like the way that I refer to it is similar to VR actually, but without the headset. And yeah, it's some interesting stuff, and I want to research it more because there's definitely something there, and it would appear that if you put someone in a hypnotic state and you've got like an empath or something like that, you can create a bridge between those two people. They can become quantum entangled in some sense, and connect from incredibly great distances.
Is it okay if I go?
Yeah, get right ahead, Ronan.
Cool. I don't know who I'm responding to. It was the person who was talking about quantum computing. Who was that?
That was me.
Oh, Tom. Okay, dope. That was amazing. Like that's one of the things like that I'm like so into. And just like first of all, I just want to hear myself explain what quantum computing is, just so that I can tell myself that I remember it. But when you look at digital computers, it's binary. It's 0 or 1, right? I don't even know why I'm explaining this, but
I know
0
where
or
you're
1.
going with this, but you're on the right track. Keep going. I know exactly what you're about to say.
Here's the thing. Like, I'm not explaining for the room. I literally love to say these things.
Isn't it cool to hear it?
It's so cool. It is like, so it's like I'm not like I never make spaces about myself, but when it comes to quantum computing, fuck it, I don't care.
Do your thing, man.
It's binary, 0 and 1. But when you have a little quantum computer, it can be in a superposition. It could be 1 or 3 and 0, 1, or both, right?
Right. Quantum superpositioning. It changes the game.
It's so amazing, and like Moore's law is dead, right? And so I've been following a bunch of like quantum computing companies, and so like I think IonQ is a room temperature vacuum ion trap company where like they just like levitate like hydrogen atoms, and they use that as their qubits, right? But they're looking at a module system, right? They're looking at basically linking up these systems into like one quantum computer, right?
But they're using hydrogen as their qubits. Did I hear that right?
I believe so. I might be wrong. You might need to fact check me, but
that's really like, this is like some dude. This would like, honestly, this would be Star Trek level material, like not all that long ago. Honestly.
I mean, it's in a vacuum, so there's like a higher degree of manipulation. But like I said, I may be wrong. I may be wrong. So like, definitely, if I'm wrong, feel free to fucking
you
call
can
me
pass.
out.
No worries. I'm sure. You know what, man? I'm sure someone's doing it somewhere.
But there's just like a multitude of companies. I remember one company that I was like following for a while was D-Wave, which is like they do like the quantum annealing, right? And so like it's good for like optimization problems, right? But for a while that company was just like they claimed that they had like the first quantum computer, but like a lot of like scientists and peers like would kind of say like, no, it's not really a quantum computer, it's an analog or I think it's like quantum annealing or whatever. Like whatever happens when you go below like a 2 nanometer process, right? You get like quantum tunneling. I think that's like what they're using, but like apparently it's good for like optimization problems. But like the thing is like I'm just like so fascinated about like quantum computers. Like I think that is like the link between like I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. But like I don't. It's not a big deal. But I do think that there is like some quantum physics when it comes to like religion. When it comes to why you walk in a room and you can feel a certain energy. But
Oh, I
there's,
totally agree with that.
you know what I
That's a
mean?
great
Like
point.
it's like why? Like how can
Have
you?
you heard too, talking about the size of transistors and such and circuit boards?
Because it
Obviously,
used to be
there's a
fucking.
physical limit. They're going to start using like I know again they're experimenting with this, but I've heard that there's obviously like metamaterials involved. Yeah, but they're also talking about creating like gels and liquids to use where they could be on a much 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 smaller scale and be able to keep the flow of electricity going in
Is that
creative ways.
using is that using graphene or something or like what kind of like
Graphene,
nano?
yeah, graphene is part of it. Yeah, graphene was one of the things that was mentioned. Yes, yeah, you're actually spot on with that. Yep, graphene was like one of the main materials I remember hearing about. Yep,
Okay. Yeah, dude, it's just so fascinating.
it's mind blowing.
I've lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna let the next person speak. I just got too geeked out.
That was really good. I really liked the point that you made about quantum physics and like maybe spirituality and religion.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
think
lot. There's a lot
it's
that ties in there. Once you go down the rabbit hole, you'll start finding some interesting stuff there
right,
for sure.
right. Yeah.
I think Ray. It was either Ray or Raina or Raina. I think it would be Raina
I was
technically.
next, if that's okay.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you
What's up, Ray?
for thanks for holding the space. So I also wanted to respond to Angela. I came in when she was talking about I forget how she put it, like a mega computer, and there was mention of remote viewing in there, which of course grabbed my interest. So the way that it sounded to me like what Angela was describing, this like mega computer or like whatever it was, I forget exactly. Sorry, Kenzie, come on, get it together. It sounded to me, it reminded me of the Akashic records almost, and especially like in terms of like remote viewing. I know that at least how I'm understanding remote viewing, it's like a matrix, and I'm trying to get as close. I'm trying to access a signal line, and in terms of like our brain as a computer processor, and just consciousness, you know completely working as a computer processor, from the kind of like bottom up processing. It makes a lot of sense to me, and kind of like what Mistress was talking about, in terms of getting somebody into a certain state via hypnosis or even like meditation, whatever it may be. That made me think of, almost like, maybe joining somebody, or getting putting somebody in a state where they're at a certain level, and then you can go in and access that level, or meet them where they are. And it just, I don't know, it makes sense to me. I don't think I'm putting it so clearly, but that's kind of how I'm conceptualizing this all, is in terms of the Akashic records, if you will. And I think for those that don't know, the Akashic records are really like, everything about the universe, all data about the past, present, and future. Um, yeah, and it's much more detailed than that, but kind of in a nutshell.
So the way that I kind of think of that too, Ray, is that like like I was talking about this earlier, like if consciousness is non-local, that there's like essentially a sea of data, for lack of a better term, like what we would maybe describe as data. Maybe it's something else that, as advanced as human beings are at this point, maybe we still don't quite have a word for it. I think that there's this like sea of data that exists out there that we're able to pull information from, and why we can do that is because it is outside of space and time. It doesn't follow those same rules. It's just kind of like the way that I look at it.
And you know, I agree, and I think the previous speaker, are they not here anymore either? Well, they mentioned something about like, why can you walk into a room and suddenly sense energy? I know, you know, some people, especially a lot of people in the UFO Twitter community, are you know, empaths and more able to pick up on energies and kind of like the minor ebbs and flows of the universe. And I'm definitely one of those people. I always have been. You know, when I was younger, I would just, you know right off the bat if I didn't like a person, before they would even open their mouth. And then, you know, really soon after, I would be validated in my initial impression. For me, especially, you know, the further I dive into learning about CRV, and as my sessions progress, I'm kind of understanding or realizing that, I think part of being an empath, or whatever you want to call it, you know, being having more extrasensory perception, I feel like we, people like us, are just naturally more in tune to the matrix. And I use the word matrix, because that's kind of part of remote viewing theory, how it's contextualized. Like we're just, I guess, you know, if we try to access the Akashic records, maybe it comes a little bit easier to us, just because we're naturally just more connected and tuned in, just based off of, you know, our sensitivities, which, you know, can really suck in a lot of ways. It's really, really hard and overwhelming, to be so sensitive. I did 7 CRV sessions in 5 days. I couldn't get out of bed today. I'm filled with anxiety, and feeling super fucking disconnected. I actually, I
do
think
too.
I think I said to Fringe, I think I used the word depressed, and like I don't really use that word lightly. And nothing in my environment or my world has changed, except that I have been remote viewing, or trying to, at least. And I feel just so incredibly drained. And yeah, it's really taxing and tiring. But on the flip side of that, it's really like, you know, really speaks to how important it is to practice self-care and you know, get your diet and sleep and exercise in check. And then I think overall what that speaks to is also just consciousness, and you know, how kind of, I, just, you know, how one should maybe manage themselves and carry themselves, to have a, you know, a most fulfilling and meaningful life, is kind of balance, is what comes to mind. I don't know. I don't know if that even made sense, or if I'm making sense at all, because again, I feel like I'm super untethered. I'm gonna go find some rocks right now to hang on to.
I feel similar to you. Like I've been doing really well with anxiety over the last year, especially being on medication for it now, and I had gotten like actual help for it because it developed in my late 20s and became like really difficult. But past couple days, even like right now, I'm a little anxious and I don't know why. It doesn't seem to be for any particular reason. The first half of this day I wanted to get work done. I ended up taking like a really, really long nap on the couch. I woke up and my dog was next to me and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I hate sleeping the day away. I try to like sleep as minimally as possible sometimes because I'm trying to get things done, trying to, you know, create content, trying to read, trying to do this and that. And I just felt like crap. You know, I don't know if I'm the only one, but like I really, really felt drained earlier today. And I wasn't technically remote viewing anything today, although I have been practicing it a little bit. Today I didn't I didn't do much of anything that should have, should have caused that. So I'm like, is there something wrong with me? So I don't know.
Well,
And I worry
just to
about that type of thing
respond,
sometimes.
and I know we have hands, and especially one of them is a host. I'm sorry, Shane. Just to respond real quick, I know last night was my first time attempting the true IAB structure of remote viewing, so the ideogram with the A and B components. So I guess those were like my real, like true like first remote viewing attempts, even though like I don't like, I think I was really trying my best to follow the manual up until that point. But um I noticed a steep decline after I did 2 sessions last night. I was just like, man, like this takes a lot out of me. But while I was attempting to remote view, I didn't feel like I was doing it at all. But then I sent my results to who I consider my mentor, unknown RV Drew, and he said, I did a pretty good job. So, I was reviewing my results, and then I realized, like, holy shit, like I did a lot better than I thought I did during the process. I even like in an ideogram. So with the ideogram, the point of the ideogram is just to draw any reflexive movement to respond to the coordinates being prompted. The ideogram does not need to look anything like the target. It's just to be used to go back to decode information about how you felt when you drew the ideogram. So you kind of trace the ideogram. How did I feel when I drew this? Oh, I felt like a hard structure. I felt like there was water there, maybe, blah, 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 that stuff. So, but my ideogram actually like had the shape in it. And yeah, so that being said, I could not get out of bed today. And like you said, I hate sleeping away the day. It was 1 o'clock and I was like, what the fuck? I
That
have
is
I have
exactly when I got
sessions.
up too.
Yeah. Yeah,
No
I was like, I
kidding.
literally have to provide therapy in 2 hours. But the good news for me is that like the only thing that always helps me every time is getting out of my own head and helping other people. So sorry, Shane.
Don't be sorry. Actually, I'll piggyback off that. I was getting ready to say, actually, I've been struggling, man. Because I'm in a liminal space, like, seems like forever now. But it's funny because you mentioned getting out of your own head. Part of that for me is this. No one will understand it. A lot of people say take a break, things like that. But most people go through their life looking for something they're good at or their niche. And I think I found it, and I don't know why. And I've constantly felt like I've been in this liminal space my entire life looking for whatever this is I'm doing now, helping others in a way, doesn't matter how minimal, right? That's the only thing that takes it away is playing, I call it the game, the puzzles, because the puzzles that answer my questions may answer somebody else's. I put information out there. Yes, I'm a reporter. I do have sources as well, but a lot of times I just put it out there for people to read because just because I don't experience, know it, or understand it doesn't mean someone else hasn't gone through it. And yeah, on that note, I don't usually say this. Do me a solid. You can also tip me if you like this stuff. Go to Old Vets UAP Symposium on YouTube if you want to watch it there, or even better, Wounded Warrior Project. If you want to throw them some money, you don't have to give me shit. I'll stay in my liminal space, right? They saved my life and they're important to me. So go ahead, G.
Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a good evening. I just wanted to touch really quick on Ray, your comments about the remote viewing, and also to indicate that it was a wonderful space with Unknown RV. That was one of my questions to him, was that whether, if you're remote viewing on a regular basis, is it physically and mentally draining? Because a couple of weeks ago, I had actually started to work on a little bit more on trying to practice it, practice with some of the instructions. And I also downloaded the 2 apps for the I think one of them was for the ESP trainer, and the other one was the Stargate ESP trainer. And I was really working on that every day, and I started to get really physically and mentally exhausted. Now, while I was doing it, it was it was great. I was like actually, I was doing really good. And I kept practicing it and practicing every day for, a couple of hours after work. And I was doing really good. And then um, I think I would say a few days ago, I started getting like a headache. And even though I sometimes do get headaches, this one was kind of like a mental block where I couldn't connect on anything. Like I couldn't, I was doing really bad. I just, to the point to where after a couple of days, I just had to put it all on hold. And I also mentioned it this past Thursday that I really didn't think I was going to hit the target on Astral Space because I had been like, super drained. I had not been able to really concentrate. So I really thought that I was also, going to miss that target as well. But that was one thing that I recently experienced when I was really trying to, practice the skills on it. So I just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
So yeah, G, I actually DM'd Drew about this because I was feeling, I felt the build up to this fatigue, really. So when I first started the CRV manual, it was on the 13th. So it was on Friday the 13th. I I named the target two of my first three attempts, and I was feeling like really, really, really awesome. And all I wanted to do was remote view, and all I could think about and read about and talk about was remote viewing. And I'll be honest, I'm autistic, and part of being autistic is we get special interests, and sometimes that's like all we can think about. This is not that. I felt I started to feel like I literally like I was unable to focus on other things that I'm normally able to focus on. I actually had I canceled a session just because I felt like I was not going to be able to just be a good therapist in that moment, when really I wanted to just read more about Ingo Swann on that certain day. But I reached out to Drew and I said, like, do you have any thoughts or advice on limiting ourselves? How much should I be practicing? How many targets should I be attempting? And he said, that's really up to the viewer. um tr- I think everything in the psi realm is about intuition, so that remains true when it comes to how many targets we should be attempting, as well as how much time we should be spending reading about these things and absorbing ourselves in it. So the way that I understood that is really just to trust my instincts and rely on my intuition and how I'm feeling that day. um Today I know for like I'm straight up not going to be attempting to remote view today. I'm not going to be attempting CRV tomorrow for astral space. I don't know my plan of action if I'm going to try like the CRV method with the ideogram and AB components, or if I'm just going to try what I've been doing. I don't know, and I don't think I will know until I sit down to do it. And but what I do know is that I am going to try my best to implement some kind of routine in terms of self-care. Turning my phone off at a certain time to get to bed, as well as I really want to try to incorporate like more yellow foods into my diet, to try to work on my solar plexus, because I like feel like my solar plexus chakra is out of tune. So again, really like listening to our body, and our minds and soul, if that answers your question. But yes, it is normal to feel drained. Some people shared a lot of really good links on some of my remote viewing posts. One of them was about a woman who is a Fringe, maybe you shared it, I don't know, I can't remember, but somebody shared something about a woman who had to basically like retire from her job of remote viewing to try to locate missing persons, just because of like how traumatic it was, and just how emotionally taxing.
Sorry about that. Tom, you still alive? So, guys, we got about 30 more minutes till Fringe's space. We'll keep it going then. Till then, do me a favor, retweet the space. If you have anything you want to put in the thread, put it in there at me or Tom. If you want us to put in or talk about it or any of that type of stuff, right? So, I like the subject. I'm an experiencer. I moved to Yakima Valley in 2020. Left Wound Warrior Care. Started recording craft. In fact, there's very few people who probably know as much about the Yakima Valley phenomenon, the Hynek study, the Elk River crash in 1979, the Yakima Balls of Light, Hanford, thanks to frickin' Tiny Klaus, right? Hanford has a crash recovery team. There's a nuclear site. So I started seeing them all the time. When I say all the time, I think it's still rolling. I haven't looked up here, but I'd go to different states. Other people would share them with me. I'd record them in different states. Everywhere I went, it was one of those things. And then the stuff that people don't talk about, right? So there's other things involved. And that's why I always talk about things such as remote viewing, indigo children, hybridization, all these things. Why are they so interested in some other individuals? And there's, I think I'll post it in here. There's actually a really good Medium article on the genomics of I can't remember who did it right now. You guys know what I'm talking about too. I know Garrett does. So actually, since I just mentioned Garrett and Ray's husband, Klaus, the best podcast currently. If you really like what I'm talking about, that's what they do. Probably easier to understand as well. So make sure you check out their podcast. Ray, will you post it in here? Because I can
Such a
promise
good
you.
show.
Oh, dude, literally, I
listened to every episode.
Yeah, there's very few that I watch.
I want to get them on the podcast too, man. I would love, like, Klaus is one of my fucking
I'm gonna be
favorite
real
people.
here, and I'm not trying to sound like a cocky asshole. There's no podcast I get information from that helps me except theirs. Theirs is the only podcast
That's
that
a
has
really
information that
big
helps me
compliment.
research and dig for real shit, right? So
I
that's why
like
I
that.
really like them. A lot of people in podcasts, they do the same questions, same shit repetitively. That's fine. But when someone starts talking about stuff that not other people will talk about, patterns tell stories. So check it out, man. Literally,
Great
my favorite
show.
podcast.
Definitely. That and another good one that kind of falls along those same lines, honestly. Exo Academia and stuff, man. Like, is there anybody that knows more about this topic than Darren? Like, honestly, him and Klaus, man. Like, they're like, oh my god, like they're two of my favorite ufologists, like, of all time now. Like, since I've been on Twitter and I discovered Klaus and I discovered Darren, like, those guys are like my heroes at this point, man. Seriously, like, I really look up to, like, their
I like Darren as
methodology and
well.
how deep they
I'll tell
go.
you this. Let me actually add this though. The difference between the two is if you're not really fully into this subject, exo academia might be a little harder for you to understand.
It's heavy. I agree.
Yes.
It's heavy.
Garrett and them talk about the same stuff, but they put it in ways that you will.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
sense?
No, it makes sense because
I see them the
Darren is
same.
very well spoken. You know,
I
he has
see
like a
them as-
really broad lexicon.
Yeah, they're bringing people aboard on the same stuff. Whereas when I go to Exo Academian too, sometimes as I'm watching along, he's really in depth, but he doesn't take the time to, I guess, pull. There may be new watchers, right? Or people like these guys will bring you along. So make sure you check them out. And Exo Academian as well, because again, they're both the same material, just explained in different ways.
Yeah, they're both great. And again, that's like
and
with
Tom's
what
podcast, because he's a reptile hybrid.
Yeah, with what we do too, me and Digby, like, we sure, there's questions that come up that everyone asks and stuff, but like what I like to do too is I try to always take something and try to put my own personal take on it so that it stands out. You know, it's like I like to take things that people have already looked at and I try to put like a new perspective on it. It's like, oh, okay, we've looked at this case, but did you consider this possibility? That's something that I have like a habit of doing. And there's so many great shows out there that we draw inspiration from on our podcast, and I respect the hell out of those guys, man. I think they're really good, open-minded people, and they remind me of myself. And I think sometimes when you see people like that and you feel like you're kind of looking in a mirror every now and then, it makes you more comfortable in the space. I really believe that.
Since we're talking about actual mediums and bringing this subject in, estimate of situations in here. I got like comic number 1.
That's
like,
my guy. I got the comic too. He sent it to me, man. I love it.
Love it. And watch what he's doing, because that's important. Matter of fact, That's the equivalent, like the Blumenthal's child's book, right? Those mediums are bringing people who love those mediums. He's posting photos of all the people that are coming up now, and it's going to continue getting bigger because, like, take Ross Colhart's time frame and things like that. So give him a follow. It's excellent material. I had it on my old wall too up there. So great shit, dude. Thanks for being in here as well. Tom, we're gonna go for 30 more minutes, guys. Do me a favor, retweet
Sweet.
the space. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. One of the things you should avoid, though, is probably my podcast. No, don't avoid it. Old Vets UAP Symposium. I don't really promote the hell out of it, but it's because pretty much anywhere and everywhere I go and I talk about this, my team throws it up on there. So all my content, spaces, actual podcasts, and I'm going to actually get back to interviews. I had a couple lined up, but I had to move again. So
Oh, dude, you should like. And you were one of my favorite guests. Like when I was on that old show that I used to do with that other guy. When we had you on, like, dude, I was scurrying like in my Discord server to like typing like damn near every word you were saying.
yeah,
I swear to
I
God,
can get a
man.
little ahead of myself and be a bit much at times. Yeah,
No, it was a good time though, man. I enjoyed it. I
I
really,
love this
I think
subject.
you're a good conversationalist and you're passionate. That's why it's good to talk to you. And this is why people like you. Is
And
because
I
you
don't know
have
if they like
passion and
me,
people
but
can hear it. Oh,
but
they
I
do.
can't talk about aliens. I don't know if they like me. It's like I could talk about aliens, but here's the thing. My problem's this. I love researching it. I like trying to answer my own questions, and I do my best to try to put the information out there in a way other people can find it, get to it, put it out themselves. Because again, apparently I suck at it. Like I can put something, and then 4 months later, somebody else put that same thing at 97 retweets. And I got 2 when I was the first one putting that shit, right? But I'm not putting it there for that. I got 4,000 something followers. But if you follow me and you watch my shit, Garrett, Tiny Klaus, they're putting the real shit out. I am too. So not all the individuals that should have the big following have it. Let me put it that way. Maybe maybe people don't like me. I don't know what it is. What do I look like to you, Tom? Am I scary?
No, when I think of you, Shane, you want my honest opinion? I think of a guy who honorably served this country to protect my freedoms. That is experiencing something miraculous, and he's trying to put the word out about that. It's really simple, and I think you have a big heart, and I think you're a good guy.
I agree with you on all those, and I'll pay you in a little bit. Thank you for that, Tom.
Wait, yeah, I just looked
Tip
at.
jar available.
I'm very surprised at your following, Shane. I would have assumed it would be higher at this point, but you're not grifting hard enough, man. No,
I know.
I don't want to bring up that topic, but I wanted to thank you on Klaus's behalf. He's napping right now. Now that the fall's here, he's big on pre-bed naps and
Is he hibernating?
pretty much. Like I work much later hours than him because I don't start sessions till after school hours for my kiddos. So I usually don't get home until 8 o'clock, and he's napping. But he'll start to stir pretty soon. Once he smells dinner cooking. So I just wanted to say thank you. I know that he definitely, and I'm sure Garrett too, like super appreciates the shout outs and the promo. And I know that y'all have a space coming up. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. It's going to be fucking awesome.
How sick is that going to be?
Oh, dude, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, me, Garrett, and Klaus talking about this. Yeah.
When is that going to be, Shane?
We have to talk and figure it out. So.
Gotcha, because I would love to listen in on that for sure.
For UFO Twitter week, I believe.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Cool. And me and Digby have something going on for UFO Twitter week as well. So
and I think I'm going to do
welcome aboard.
I'm also going to do a separate one as well on the Jack's Sephardi lectures, if I can break them down enough. Because again, holy shit! But
have you ever read any of his papers?
Yes. And if you guys get a chance, How Heavy Say Physics, check that out. But there's another one. I'll post it in here. Butcher it, but it's basically part 2, the Jack Sephardi story. He actually, the lectures talk about a lot of his material from his papers. And I posted a tweet asking him a question and my brain was exploding trying to break that shit down, right?
He's an interesting guy.
It is. And
he really is.
Right? Maybe I don't have the following because I'm like,
dude, I commented, don't feel bad. I tried to get him on the podcast like a month ago, And then the next, all he did was just like share like a retweet of his about like warp time and
That's my
shit.
Jack. My
That's
favorite part about Jack is like you're being in the middle of a tweet or thread, and here comes Jack with some gravity fucking theories and shit. I'm like, thanks, Jack, and the shit's usually on point. So I start getting them and start trying to break them down and figure out what's going on in them, because again, Jack's a time traveler, and Jack was a part of Stargate.
So
Yeah.
I know this won't be a surprise to anyone, but Garrett knows a shit ton about Jack Sarfati, about that man. Just just throwing that out there. But I mean, like Garrett,
And
like
you know what?
fucking
I
knows
won't do a
so
separate
much.
space. We'll talk about the lectures there.
Oh no,
I was gonna say maybe you should try to get Jack in there
I-
with you guys.
I'm just saying, Garrett, you better show up to that one and contribute.
Oh,
But
I
that
know he
sounds
does. And what's funny about this, Ray, I build a lot of my shit, like one of his Medium articles when he's talking about the Star Kids and Jack and all them. And between him and John's articles, shit, that's some top notch information and research to do any kind of a build on your own research. So hell yeah, he straight up does. So I'll tell you that part of the reason is I'll tell people like, man, I'm into this subject. I want people to take me seriously, and I'll post real, just info that's just new or anything like that. And then the next day, be like, "Oh, f the world, I'm home." Just living my life, like literally telling you too much information about me. So that might be part of the problem. People get tired of that shit. Like my life is here. The only people I know are here, and so it might be difficult for people to understand that, because when I talk about being in these rooms, if I don't come in these rooms and talk to you guys, I don't talk to anybody, period. There's no one in my life, period. The only friends I have from here, the only people I talk to, period, that literally saved my life, gave a shit, that have cared about me in 3 years. And I'm not even exaggerating. The only people in my fucking phone are from here. So I kind of probably wild out a little too much. Like literally, my situation right now sucks for a 44-year-old man. But you know what? I'm going to survive. Other people don't. And I'm in a situation where I'm actually doing something I enjoy. I just got to, I guess, get my footing. Imagine what I can do if I'm standing and not constantly tripping while trying to do this shit, right? Just imagine. It just constantly feels like the liminal space is holding me back. Every half hour I spend researching, the other half is worrying. And that anxiety gets to me, but I keep marching because I come in the rooms and other people start talking, and I realize, shit, dude, what are you doing? You don't have it near as rough. And at least you're doing something good, because you used to be what? Homeless, an addict, all these other things. And the experience, regardless if it's shitty or good, or it brought you into UFO Twitter, which is, yes, it's a shit show. But again, there's no place for experiencers. There's no place for us to have these conversations without being judged really crazy, like, right? And even on Twitter, when I talk about my real experience sometimes now, or report on some things that make people uncomfortable, you're going to get judged. Shit, I don't care. Let them judge away. I'm always weird. And it's here's where it's crazy though. Before we get over Ray, I posted that Indigo Children thing. All of that, 17 out of 17 is what I hit on that. No joke. Like even with my family, I feel like kind of a odd man out. Like all these things. And it's kind of blows my mind that stuff like this was so woo, no one would talk about it. So check out that thing up in the nest. It's a little post, and it gives you all these whatever, right? Just see how many you are. Grin, do your own research. Everything I say is for you to think about, run through your filters, and I'll let you know if I have a source that helps me better. And then you still run through your filters. Don't say Shane said and be doing some shit. Go ahead, Ray.
No, Shane, I listen, like I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't think anybody gives a fuck about how many followers anybody has except for that person, right? And like what's the alternative to being open and honest with where you are? The alternative is turning inward and withdrawing and doing like things that aren't helpful. So who cares? If people don't like what you have to say, then they can, fuck right off or not follow you, and that's fine. I feel like I can relate to you a lot. I'm super open, definitely I overshare way too much, but I know that about myself and I'm prepared for it to be used against me. I don't think I'm just not prepared for it to be used against me to the extent it has. But like, we're all here for the same reason. You nailed it. Like, where else can we go to get answers about stuff like this, and like share and connect with other like-minded people that, you know, are experiencing some really real stuff. And the way that I just kind of can sleep at night is like, well, if experiencers or other people that are interested in this topic or are here are like picking on other experiencers, well, like that's not about me at all. That's about them. And you know, I wish them well. But that's why I keep coming to these spaces. And you know, I know Shane, so last week in Astral space, I, you know, you said you had your blowout or whatever, and I missed it because I was attempting the target at that time. But later in the space, fucking Kimball came up, and yeah, I'll call him out, came up as speaker just to throw emojis to distract me while I was talking, and it worked. It distracted me and I got emotional, but like not Ray level emotional that I've gotten in the past, just like reasonable emotional, I think. But like, whatever, I removed myself from the space before it escalated. But afterwards I'm like, damn, like I don't really regret how I handled that. Like I definitely could have handled it better. And there's like hardly anybody in the space who understood why I was getting so emotional, because like emojis are so stupid. But like, he knew exactly what he was doing and it worked, and that's why I got upset. But like at the end of the day, like who looked like the asshole? Like not me. And you know, I just don't think that you know, I don't care what people think is what I'm trying to say. And I, you know, sometimes I care what people think when I'm in states of anxiety. But I just have to recognize that that's what it is. I'm just in a state of anxiety. You know, it sucks. This is hard, but it's temporary. And, you know I have overall, there's a really awesome community here, and it's a very forgiving community. And also, I'll acknowledge a really patient community because I get really wordy and go off on tangents and overshare. So thanks, y'all. But yeah, honestly, Shane, like to be honest, I am really surprised. I thought you'd have like at least 10,000 followers by now. But yeah, I really
Thank
like
you for that,
the
Ray. No,
community.
I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, and it's not about the followers, but sometimes I ain't gonna lie. Look, all right, I'm gonna let you guys. I'm gonna overshare right now. You guys want that? Like, so I'm probably one of very few people who I talk more to anonymous sources than I do any other people. No shit. And I also probably bitch because of my, not because they're important, just like about myself. Like, I must be an idiot. What am I doing wrong? Like, I don't get it. Like, I literally just posted the location of the pyramids, the pyramid, things like that, that I would think would get attention because, like everyone, I'm human. And so that gets to me. And again, I have to step back sometimes to realize I'm not doing it for that. And it gets me in a place where, because when you start doing it for that, for the following, whenever that following starts slowing down, you start doing things, to keep that following going instead of putting the message out. Like, whereas Garrett and your husband, myself, we keep putting the message out, that should come, right? Eventually it comes. Part of the reason is I'm not all here because the experience tearing half my life apart and then life tearing half my life apart and things like that. And I get it. And it could be a million different things, but I will say this, that I've learned everything that I know about this topic, and that's everything. And from these rooms, from people putting links and things like that. And it is cool to have these places to talk about shit. And I've overshared too, and shit. That's one of the reasons I did started with UAP Med, right? Was because there wasn't a lot of people talking about the subject like us, and there's little cracks. Like, what do you do if you have a mental health past, and all of a sudden you're, let's say, super experiencer? Not only is no one going to believe you, dude, I almost got committed. And I was having you know what it's like now having the verification of Yakima Valley, all the videos to show doctors the very videos of the Yakima lights that are famous, and then not give a flying fuck and still want to commit you.
Makes no sense
Oh, it makes none, but
on
it
their
does,
part.
right? So I actually, not being, I was a rational individual, so I knew what not to talk about. So you just stop talking about things. But how's that to live a life when I was an individual who needs mental health care for PTSD, for combat stress, things like that, but I couldn't talk about other parts of my life? It starts affecting you, right? But that's what these rooms are, and it's cool as shit, right? So I'm appreciative of you guys coming in here. Do me a solid, retweet the space and give all the speakers and hosts, everyone we talked about, give them a follow, because again, we're your pros. It may scare you, but it shouldn't, because a lot of us put our hearts into this for no money. We pour everything into it, and what do we get? Usually labeled. But you know what? Fuck it.
Shane, you just made me realize something. I think like super significant. For anyone else who may have not arrived to this conclusion already, or you talked about just like the video and still not being believed, and I think I put myself in your shoes in that situation. So while I've had a lot of mental health care and treatment myself personally, I've never seeked it regarding the phenomenon, at least not yet. We'll say I'll preface it with that. But I just kind of put myself in your shoes for a second and imagined what it would be like to go for something like that, provide a visual and still not be believed. Something that I can't tolerate is not being believed. I feel like that's like a form of gaslighting, is like when I'm like telling you something and like you're still like, you're not telling me I'm wrong, but you're just not believing me. I can't tolerate that. So I feel like, and I also I really struggle to withhold information, especially when I'm in a state of crisis. I'm a very honest person. I really lack a filter, obviously. So if I'm going to seek help, I'm going to give all the information. So if I were to seek medical attention in the case of as an experiencer, I would for sure, be institutionalized, because I would give all the information. I most likely wouldn't be believed, and I would be able to sense that I wasn't being believed, and then I would for sure go into a state of
Panic.
panic and
Yeah.
probably start to like, they would probably restrain me, and then I
Well, check this out,
would fight
Ray.
back. Shit, that's
You brought that
traumatic.
up, and I know I've talked to you a little bit
Mm.
about before, but let me put it this way. During that, while I was having those experiences, UAP experiences, I was also going through some horrific harassment that I had to eat because I could only talk about UFOs and they still thought I was crazy. But if I tried to talk about people fucking with me everywhere I went and following me and messing with me and ended up, I don't want to talk about why, none of that shit. But my point being, I had to eat that shit and decide, okay, do I want to have people believe my UFO message because it's real? But if I talk about the other shit that I'm being harassed, no one will. So I just ate it for 3 fucking years.
Shane, do
Same.
you believe those two things were related? Do you believe that you were being harassed based on what you were
No,
speaking
I
about?
don't. But I will tell you this: they used that to get away with it for so long. That guy
Mm.
talks about UFOs. He has PTSD from the past. It stopped once they realized. Look, I don't want to get too much into it. I'm a videographer. I got camera shit like that. I'm also an investigative reporter, and I'm pretty good at piecing puzzles together. Let me take that with the tech we have today, the ability to find anyone. Now, imagine being harassed by these individuals and individuals not being smart enough. They may be able to find me. So it stopped once you start showing up at people's houses and start putting information out like, hey, guess what? But that's all I'm going to go into it there. It wasn't about that. It's some stupid shit it's traumatic beyond belief. But
It's
anyway,
wrong. It's wrong, is what it is
yeah,
on their
well,
part. It
it
really
is. But
is.
my point being is no one would believe me about that fucking shit. And I had to eat it. And then no
Oh
one would
man.
believe me about the UFOs. And then, so finally, I had to start breathing and realize, okay, you got to watch what you say, certain things here and there. It's also why I didn't talk about my experience on full when it first happened. I talked about nuts and bolts, what I recorded and saw. I didn't talk about the downloads I got right when I had my first experience. I didn't talk about things I knew and didn't understand knowing and why and things like that. Because again, stack those three. What do you got? What you got is someone who cannot get out of a mental hospital, who's living in a real life. That fucked me up, man. Everyone around me telling me I was sick when I was actually the best I've ever been in my life and getting better. almost made me take my life. Think about that. I literally left Wounded Warrior, was fixing my life. Everything was good. I was gonna, fixing everything. I was smarter, doing good things, enjoying this shit. But everyone around me had convinced me. No shit. Think about me now, but convinced me I was schizophrenic. The doctor had to tell me, Shane, you're not schizophrenic. You can't be. And then I showed the videos, and I got one doctor that kind of pulled me out. It's like, ah. And then I found like UFO Twitter, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And how shitty is it that, man, a man who served his fucking country became a homeless addict because of it. Just fixed his fucking life. You don't get to survive that shit. I did. And when I got, think about this, that was the lowest point in my life, and I've been an addict. Lowest point in my life when I was better, when everyone else thought I was crazier. I didn't even ask for this fucking shit. And everyone else around me, I had to stop talking about it to everyone. So every day, this is where I got trauma. I tear up about this. Every day I still got trauma. One of the reasons I don't live over in Yakima Valley, too, one of many. Still got trauma from places, right? Not many people don't look up in certain spots because they have events that trigger and things like that. And I'll tell you now, too, my experience probably has everything to do with that trauma. Lighthouse in the dark, something along those lines. But it's ridiculous. And to figure out that not only is there no help, there's no real, I guess you would say, like a Social Security administrator. It's a place where you just know that it's a safe spot and it has the information, follow these steps, it's this, that, or the other. No, you either become your own researcher and learn to use the filters properly, or you squander, especially if you have an experience that's so intense that you don't quite understand it. And it almost becomes religious. And I'm not saying religious as in that, but like, I don't understand it. I went from agnostic or being atheist to agnostic because how did this happen? I can tell you right now, if I told everyone this complete story about the series of events that happened to lead me to a place where, hell, even having a legacy source or any sources coming from where I did, working for or writing for the record, just being here in these rooms talking about a subject. Sometimes I joke because it sounds like I'm playing the game because it feels like pieces of the puzzle are constantly put in front of me. These synchronicities are so thick. I'm like, okay, wait, did someone tell you to say that to me? I do that a lot. You guys hear me say that because I'm like, are you guys playing with me right now? Because you saying that makes me, there's a reason. And I can't understand any of it. And a lot of people write me off as crazy. I can promise you I'm not. I just follow my hunch and I talk about it, no matter how stupid people think I am. You still with me? I hope you guys could hear that whole.
Hey, Shane, I want to say in response to everything you were just saying, a couple different things. So, if I was a doctor and I'm looking at your case, right? A schizophrenic can't take a video of what they're seeing as a result of their schizophrenia that exists within their head. So it's like,
well,
it's kind of asinine that they would.
That's a good point, but the problem is this: they're scientists. What do scientists do now? Prosaic, definitely. Oh, it's a star.
Status quo. Yeah, status quo.
This, right? And because that changes their world. It changes. Think about this. If you're, I don't know, man. If you're a psychologist and all of a sudden this is real to you, aren't you going to have to start thinking about some of those diagnoses or people you've committed?
100%. Yeah, it runs deep, right? You're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and think about some of the mistakes that you made along the way. No question about that.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention alien scientists called me disinfo earlier. I can promise you I'm not, because there's no handler that would tolerate my ass.
That's actually pretty funny.
I'm so everywhere on shit, man.
I thought that was a little outrageous to go as far as saying that, and not for anything, but I'll even say someone messaged me in the space and was like, "Damn, I'm trying to listen to you talk, and this guy keeps talking over you." So like he was rude to multiple people. So don't sweat that, man. You know what I mean? Don't take that to heart. If you were disinformation, I'd like to think that I have a good gut for that type of thing, and if you're say, you know what, people use that phrase incorrectly too. Like if you put out something that began as disinformation, that doesn't mean you're disinformation, right? That you just put out incorrect information. That doesn't make you, an agent of disinformation or misinformation, because that mistake can happen. right?
Well, it
Someone
can happen.
could
Matter of
convince
fact,
you of
that's
that, but you're
what
not disinformation. That's
Lukaski was kind of talking
ridiculous.
about. He when he mentioned David Grush, that someone that unwillingly didn't even know it was disinformation gave it to
Right,
David,
right, right.
and I wonder what that is. But I will tell you this: one thing most people do forget, and I know other people that I talked about earlier, and I don't want to say names because you shouldn't do that anyway. I have sources too, so I'm not just grasping at straws on a lot of shit. And I'll put source and this and that. And again, I trust them. So I try to vet some of my stuff. Back in the day, don't get me wrong. I'd clout chase like a fool. As soon as somebody give me some shit, I'd run with that shit. Now I try to go do some research. I'm a grown up. I'm a mature animal. I'm a mature hybrid. Now I do some research and vet it other places, you know? So when I hear something from one source that I already have research for, I'll put something together and take it elsewhere. And that is what I want you guys to run through your filters. Doesn't mean it's all there, but what we're doing is we're trying to put pieces of the puzzle together, right? So we got 4 or 5 more minutes, and then I'm gonna close this down because Fringe's space is starting up.
This has been a really, really good space too. A lot of stuff got covered, and you know, I was thinking about this earlier with Ray, with what you were saying about yourself, and then Shane. I'll piggyback off of both of you. You know, when we have the followers that we have. Maybe sometimes, yeah, we overshare. I think I do sometimes myself. Like, you know, if I'm feeling kind of down in the dumps, it kind of just helps me to kind of put something out and hear someone tell me, hey, like, me too, you'll feel better. Just it helps you out. But at the end of the day, if you're just being yourself and you're not going outside of that, you're not trying to be a character, you're not trying to play a part, then you have nothing to be ashamed of. You are being who you are, and that is all that matters. That's like the one thing that I try to live by when I'm on here on UFO Twitter, and or you know, on my YouTube channel, on the podcast, anywhere that I may appear or create something, that I am being me. I am not going to be anyone else but myself, no matter what. I'm not going to change. You know, I may not agree with me, right? May think some of the things that I say are this or that, but that's okay. That's fine, because at the end of the day, I know who I am. I know my heart's in the right place, and I stand by that. Period. End of story.
What do you think about time traveling?
Did you see that article from the debrief the other day? Speaking of,
What do you think about time traveling?
I think it's possible. I do.
Do you think it's possible, or do you think
Yes,
we're doing
forward
it?
and backward.
I think the way we perceive time, it can be done perhaps, but not with. I think you got to step out of the time flow. Like I also think. No, I'm not going to say that. Yes, I am going to say that. I think there's an adjustment bureau. There's probably multiple timelines, shit like that, right?
Adjustment Bureau. Wow, haven't heard that phrase in a while. That's interesting. That's really interesting. You think CERN has anything to do with that?
I say that because again, Project Pegasus and some of these projects that I talk about that use these methods of time travel, think of it consciousness. That's the way to do it, right? Uh, shit, Scott Andrews. That's what I'm trying to say. I think there's individuals, those star kids, 400 of them, these kids were put through programs like this. And time travel, it's not the way we perceive it. Does that make sense? It's more about,
No, it makes sense.
if everything's happening all right now, what we're seeing this time, the way it works is just perception. It's where our brains made up to the time flow. So I know Dan Sherman though mentions, what is it, Bones? I think at his second piece, the second station, which I think was Aviano, Italy, he's talking to Bones, and Bones tells him that they don't time travel like we would think. They have to step out of the flow of time and step back in at another point. They can't just go
Right.
against it. And someone mentioned earlier about time travel using vibration shift. I actually saw something somewhere talking about frequency shift. If you had the technology, you could use frequency shift to phase out into different shit like that. What's up, Ray?
Yeah, Roy talks about that.
No, I'm just wondering. So I agree. I think time travel is possible, but definitely not. I don't think it occurs by like the means that we all have, like, been either taught or
Mm.
um, what have you. But I'm just wondering, and I'm gonna wonder out loud about remote viewing and how that fits in with time travel.
That's
Or how,
interesting.
yeah,
That's
like
really
am
interesting.
I think they're the same
um
shit, man. Once you
I think
master that,
they're, yeah,
Monroe
interrelated.
shit, Good point, Ray.
Yeah, very good point.
But hey,
I
guys,
think there's a connection there for sure.
Yeah,
I
I'm
wanna
gonna
get
step
over-
down. Thank you so much for the space, Shane. Have a good night, you guys.
You too, Rick.
So check
Thanks for
this
being
out.
here as always.
Do me a solid. We're gonna leave this space where we're talking about love and light, and we're gonna go and we're gonna talk about some MK Ultra and some dark ass shit, right? So I'm gonna move over here, go over to the fringes space for a little bit at least, because I wouldn't mind talking about abductions and things like that. So do me a favor, retweet the space, follow all the speakers, the host, co-host. You can always tip me, any of these individuals. Check out all the podcasts, mine included. Wounded Warrior Project. You know what? Donate. I'm not even gonna say try, just donate. And then on top of that, another important one I mentioned earlier, UAP Med. So, hey, Ryan, if you're in here, thank you, brother. You and Mariah are awesome. So first, I got to say this. Ryan literally let me talk, and then they post all my shit. They do all the work and put it on YouTube for me. They're the best team ever because they know I suck at everything else. So I love you guys. All right. So check it out, guys. Retweet, and I'll talk to you later.